Okay.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Going good.
Good.
So ready to talk about China. I've been waiting. I did this blog like months ago.
Right.
Well, I've added to it, but I did it on February 7th.
Oh,
So that
geez.
just
Wow.
give you an
Yeah.
idea that it was a while ago. So just so you know that, like, in my mind, I plan ahead.
Right. Yeah. It's been there for 6 months. So,
But we also had to deal with Hancock and the masculinity stuff. Some things come up, and then I push what I want to do out.
right.
So,
Right.
well, I'm ready now. Let's get going.
All right. So part 1, Paleolithic or Old Stone Age in China. So first, let's address the Paleolithic or Old Stone Age from 3 million years ago to around 12,000 years ago, when it becomes the Neolithic or New Stone Age. 12,000 years ago around 6,500 years ago, when it becomes the Chalcolithic or Copper Age in
Right.
China. Damien is adding this so there is an understanding of how China's population formed and led to more cultural development in the Neolithic and beyond.
Right, but pause for a second. Because most people, they think like there was nothing going on, and then all of a sudden stuff just came out of nowhere. And so I want to debunk that. And also, there's some issues with people's beliefs about the Paleolithic China that have to be addressed.
Okay. So then, first thing we're talking about is we have a picture of Peking Man in China, and I don't know how to say this word, Zokudian Peking Man site.
Yeah, it's a cave they found it in.
Okay, in Beijing.
Well, yeah, outside of Beijing, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Peking Man, Homo erectus pekinensis.
But
Is a
the whole point is just real quick though. The whole point of what that is to help you understand is the Peking Man is not separate from all the other lineage. It's not like some
right.
Well, because people start to think that, well, that's a Chinese only man or something.
Right.
Wrong. It's a Homo erectus.
Yeah. No. It's part of all of
All of us.
or humanity's evolution.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Sure.
let's just be understand. Homo erectus probably could relate to maybe as an ancestor, even to the Cinnabins or Sovians, however they're pronounced. I don't know. Neanderthals,
Right.
other arcane humans, which this is, in a sense. Peking Man is just another.
Okay. So it is a subspecies of Homo erectus, which inhabited the Zukudian cave site in modern northern China. Discovered in the Zukudian cave, has since then become the most productive Homo erectus site in the world. The fossils became the center of the anthropological discussion and were classified as a direct human ancestor, propping up the out of Asia hypothesis that humans evolved in Asia.
Which is actually incorrect.
Right. Peking Man also played a vital role in the restructuring of the Chinese identity following the Chinese Communist Revolution, and was intensively communicated to working class and peasant communities to introduce them to Marxism and science, overturning deeply rooted superstitions and creation myths. Early models of Peking Man society.
Pause 1 second, though. Yep. But it's going back to the statement of saying peasants.
Yeah.
Because isn't it supposed to be nationalistic China with Marxism? Why are anyone peasants?
Yeah,
right. Because I guess my opinion of what a communist something would be, or socialism leaning something would be, it wouldn't have something, I don't know, peasants.
If I'm being generous, I think they might be saying that they were peasants before communism, and now, and now they're just referring to them in that way. But who knows? They were still peasants in during communism too. In China.
Well, they shouldn't be. Is my point.
It was a ruling class. Yeah, it wasn't real communism.
Oh, ruling class. Oh, yeah. No. Yeah, I really don't dig that as an anarchist.
Yeah, no, me either. So early models of Peking Man society strongly lean towards communist or nationalist ideals, leading to discussions on primitive communism or polygenism. This produced a strong schism between Western and Eastern interpretations, especially as the West adopted the out of Africa hypothesis by late 1967. And Peking man's role in human evolution diminished as merely an offshoot of the human line. Though out of Africa is now the consensus, Peking man interbreeding with human ancestors is frequently discussed, especially in Chinese circles. Peking man lived in a cool,
Pause for 1
predominantly.
second.
Oh, yep.
So even if this is the same thing with the next one we're going to read too, and the rest of the chapter or whatever thing I made, is that even the one at 300,000 that's brand new, even the Peking man that's old, people need to get this. Even if they mated in some way with, or their lineage did, with some arcane modern human out of Africa, they're still out of Africa.
Right.
In other words, we don't say that Decennivians or Desovians are somehow our lineage. They got put in there, but they're not really. They're like, cousins or something. Whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
They're not. All I'm just trying to say is that makes no difference. Every to make it really simple for everybody, every human alive today, okay, everyone has an ancestor from Africa 70,000 years ago that probably even lived in southern Africa.
Right.
That doesn't mean that other ones couldn't be in there, including, like I said, Neanderthal, Desovians, heck, maybe even ancestors later of the Peking man.
Right.
I don't know. I don't care. I just want to get the point is that doesn't make you not human, doesn't make you not connected from us. And yes, all humans connect back to Africa, including actually Homo erectus. So even. So
right.
Including all out of Africa. Now, the only thing that may be weird that's different than that is maybe one of the I can't remember if it's ape or chimp or some anyway, something even further back, maybe I can't remember how long, but might have come from another continent into Africa. And then that's where all the geniuses then go. But all the geniuses that have anything to do, people don't understand, anytime it's Homo, it's actually Homo neanderthalis, whatever.
Right.
It's Homo desovian or anyways. So they're all human and we all could mate, which is a good sign that that we're actually connected, because as people know when they try to breed animals, if you mix ones that are not correct, even if they can produce something, sometimes it's sterile or it doesn't produce anything at all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just making a comment. So the fact that we could mate and still be alive means that actually they're just humans, a different kind.
Right. Yeah. Still the same family, basically.
Trying to help grasp. Stop saying we're different things.
Yeah. Still the same thing. So Peking man lived in a cool, predominantly steppe, partially forested environment, alongside deer, rhinos, elephants, bison, buffalo, bears, wolves, big cats, and a menagerie of other creatures. Peking man intermittently inhabited the Zucudian cave, but the exact chronology is unclear, with estimates as far back as 780,000 years ago and as recent as 230,000 years ago.
Which is kind of a shit time range. Like, what?
Right. That's huge, eh?
That's huge. That's a huge mistake. Normally it's like, within a small 10% or something.
Not like 550,000 years separation.
Right.
That's huge. Yeah. And then we've got a picture of fossil-bearing Chinese Homo erectus sites.
Right. And that's also to get people to understand it's not a one-off.
Right. Yeah. There's multiple
and they
sites.
all aren't called Peking man because Peking man relates to a specific one. So there's other Homo erectus around, even if you wanted to call them all Peking man. But my point is, I'm just saying China actually has more than people think. It's not like there's one thing.
Sure.
Oh, just this one find, and that was
right. Obviously, right? Like that should be obvious to a person.
Wow. Science does move on, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to, and I'm going to show these pictures, by the way, when we do the video. Right. But anyway, so I'm just trying to say is that to get people to understand that it's more than this, and even that is still from Africa originally. So I mean, yeah, there is no argument about it to me.
No, not really. Eh? All right. So then we've got archaeology and historical, a picture of, I guess it's not really a picture, it's a list of archaeology and historical narratives. So we've got the rise of Liangzhu, 3000 BCE, the collapse of Liangzhu society, 2300, Longshan transition, 2300 to 1800, Taosi and Shimel in Jinan and Ordos, and then the collapse of Longshan society in 1900 to 1800, the rise of Erlitou, 1900 to 1600, the fall of Erlitou and the rise of Zhengzhou, and the expansion of Zhengzhou, 1600 to 1400, and the return to Anyang, 1300 to 1046. And as for their historical narratives, they've got mythical rulers, 3000 BCE, legendary regimes, 2300 to 2100 BC, a flood and the Great Yu, and then the Xia dynasty, 2100, Shang dynasty, 1600, and the Zhou dynasty, 1046.
So I was just saying is these right here are we're going to talk about older, but just to give you a chronology, this is like when people say the history of China, most of the time they're thinking right here. It starts at 5,000 years ago or 3000 BCE.
Ah, okay.
And then it follows what has just been read to you in a sense, or what you read, So
right.
But my point is, we're showing, that's lacking a lot.
Right. It's a pretty short history comparatively.
Yeah. So that's why we're gonna go and everybody also you should go to the blog and go learn more and click the links and read stuff so you can understand more, because often I just take a few parts or something. So it's on you to go learn more, but we're trying to give a thorough thing. So go ahead and keep reading.
So it says the video used for this blog and our Atheist-Humanist-Leftist Revolutionaries YouTube show was The Rise of Early Chinese Civilizations from Dr. Min Li.
Right. And then there's a video. People can go and watch the whole video. We're going to watch parts of it.
Okay.
But I just wanted the people to understand that we're going to go talk about older, but I wanted to get people who maybe don't know anything about China, like what China kind of thinks about itself, right? In a sense. And then we're going to go talk about older and then come back.
Okay. So before, as I'm getting this video, there's also a blurb here.
Yeah.
In this superb and intense crash course, Dr. Min Li defines the different approaches to defining civilization and how these concepts are applied to Neolithic and ancient China when tracing the early origins of Chinese civilization. Min Li, Dr. Min Li, PhD, University of Michigan, 2008, is an associate professor of East Asian archaeology with a joint appointment at Department of Anthropology and Department of Asian Languages and Cultures at UCLA. His archaeological research spans from state formation in early China to early modern global trade networks. He is also a co-director of the Landscape Archaeology Project in the Bronze Age city of Khufu, China. His first book, Social Memory and State Formation in Early China, with the Cambridge University Press.
Right. And the reason we give that info is so you know who this person talking is.
Right.
So you know that it's not just some, it's not Graham Hancock or just some
right, exactly.
This guy is actually no fucking clue about shit. He's just talking crap. So I'm just saying, this guy is an archaeologist. We're learning actual stuff. He's done actual archaeology in China. This is,
yeah, this is a guy that
a credible person to listen to. In other words,
yeah, for sure. Okay, so I think I'm ready for the video. Present.
Once you meet these criteria, that means elaboration of social life, and then you have a civilization. So that's metallurgy, writing, city life, and the state. So these are the defining attributes that has been adopted in Chinese archaeological practice since the 1960s and 70s. So that's the dominant paradigm in a Marxist archaeology. And then Kissy Chang, whose work I have assigned you to read. So he's anthropologist at Harvard. And he defines civilization as the manifestation of material wealth in concentrated form. As you can see, as we take this definition, we're backing away from a more Eurocentric definition, because many civilizations has no writing like Inca, or has no use of metallurgy, or no emphasis on metallurgy. So from an anthropological perspective, you would like to back away from that Eurocentric definition and focus on the great concentration of wealth. Okay, so that's more universal, where he argues that it's both a result and a prerequisite for political authority. So concentration of wealth leads to rise of political authority. And he further argues that the initial concentration of wealth and resources in early China was achieved by political means rather than results of technological advances. So here you can see Kissy Chang is offering critique of Marxist theory, where technology leads to social evolution. So it is important to for the emergence of social order that affect the distribution of wealth and resources. Okay, we have to look how these.
Pause for a second.
And
it absolutely was technology. What in the fuck is that guy saying? Are you kidding me? So the Shang dynasty, right, gets the real power, right, in the late part, and how it does that is because it gets the chariot,
right,
technology, and then it fucking dominates everybody, and then everyone after that does it. And the same thing happened for Hinduism. Just real quick so people can grasp this. If you look at the Indian flag right now, what is in the center of it? Oh, it's a chariot wheel. You mean their whole society is made from the conquerors that came with the chariot? Yes. Their whole religion, almost most of their gods ride a chariot or being pulled by a chariot.
Right.
Yeah. Buddhism also has the wheel, and it's a chariot wheel. In fact, Buddha was considered to be from the DNA lineage, probably of the people that came in the sense the tribes that had come from the Sinshasta culture down from Russia. One went into Iran and made Zoroastrianism, and the other ones went down into India and they made Hinduism. It were the Vedas, in which Vedic religions relates to Jainism and also Hinduism, and also some parts of Buddhism in a sense. So all that is really all because of the wheel, the chariot.
Okay.
So anyways, yeah. Also, the Mongolian bow freaking dominated the goddamn world, right? And the ability to ride horses, the horse itself dominated the whole world. In fact, chariots were so important. You see them in Samaria, remember we talked about, and their first siege engines were chariots. They dominated because of it. I'm telling you. Anyways, so it was also a political thing, but political thing didn't require no technology. It wasn't like the lower class with no technology invented everything. That is fucking bullshit. Anyway, sorry. So I agree with it, but I'm just saying caveat. With my knowledge,
right?
That is wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry. Kissy Chang, in that little book, he argues that bronze vessels are the mediums of religious communication in early China. So if one monopolizes bronzes and its raw materials, then he controls the path to political authority. So here you see religion.
Oh, so the Bronze Age technology that he used helped him to get political authority? Well, then he's just proved himself wrong.
Yeah, it certainly seems like a contradiction in definition.
Well, but just so you know, and everyone knows, right? You know, I start with axiology, not Marxism, not communism, not so. I have no problem critiquing everyone, including myself, if I say things that are wrong. So, but my point is, so I don't have to follow Marx stuff. I'm just saying what he said, and maybe he's anti-Marx or against that position.
Yeah,
But,
he's a opposite. You know, I guess
but
he's
I'm
trying to.
just saying.
Yeah.
I don't have a position like that, like where I start with, I know that they think that. I just go, here's the facts.
Right.
Yeah. The Tueler dominated the whole North. One of the reasons they did was the compound bow, very similar to the Mongols. And they actually share the same DNA. Very interesting. C217.
Yeah.
Anyways, so and all I'm saying is, so my position, which I guess is closer to Marxism, but not because I'm trying to be. I'm just saying,
Right.
that's just a fact.
Yeah.
Wealth, material wealth, and the political power are entangled. Okay, so these wealth is focused on the control of religious communication. And once you control religious communication, you control political authority. So that's the rise of kingship. And Mauss, this is French anthropologist, so he's nephew of Durkheim, the great sociologist. So in Mauss in 1930s, he had a different definition of civilization. So basically, it highlights the shared cultural milieu in which a number of societies are immersed. And this is easy to understand. Civilization is more like culture. So you can say Confucian civilizations of East Asia. So Korea, China, Japan, they're all immersed in Confucian ideology. And you can see a Christian civilization of Europe. But here, this is interesting. Societies live by borrowing from each other, but they define themselves rather by the refusal of borrowing than by its acceptance. So basically, the societies are constantly in interaction, okay? And then they constantly borrow from each other. When they refuse to borrow, when these cultural traits are available, that is a definition of how their identity was. So that's a very interesting approach, because in the more Marxist, the more traditional thinking about civilization, we always think about the early societies develop certain traits because they are in isolation from each other. Okay, so here, Mauss turned that around. And we have to think all these different definitions.
So people understand my definition of civilization. When you think of I think of this term, it's actually, to me, just so people know, it's like the animists in Africa who are, in a sense, anarchists. They don't have any political authority, right? So it doesn't take any of that stuff that they think. I'm saying, for me, that is civilization. I was trying to explain why, because everyone has rights. That sounds pretty fucking civilized.
Yeah.
Everyone's needs are taken care of. The basic needs. That's pretty fucking civilized. And they actually do a lot of communal things, even though they almost don't even have religion. And they use a click, which is like a very, very basic language.
Right.
So that is civilization. To me, it's because when you just think of this, when you say civilized, if someone's acting civilized, what do you mean by that? You mean that they're behaving in a pro-social way, like an anarchist way. Everyone owns themselves. I don't want to hurt no one. No one should hurt me, and then I should help people in need if I can. I mean, and you know what I'm saying? That's civilized. That, to me, I'm saying, so people can grasp. That's how Damien. I do not buy these like bigoted fucking definitions. And
I'm not sure. Like, it seems like they're really trying to do it. Like, they're trying to have these academic kind of like broad, big definitions, but they leave a lot out when they do that. Like, they're ignoring like every civilization that doesn't fit into these specific criteria.
Exactly. Well, just like if we have a people, right, that want to go out and live in nature, right? We don't go, they're uncivilized. I'm talking about, not talking about indigenous. I'm just saying if people from our own culture, like say they're from Saskatchewan and they want to go out for, I don't know, 5 months in out in wilderness and live with no tools or something, or I don't know, whatever. We don't go, ooh, they're uncivilized. You see what I'm saying? To me, the whole concept is almost inherently bigoted. Because even
Right.
say that Marx had this idea that a civilization is metallurgy, writing this. I don't know he did. I'm just saying.
Right. That's
Then
being
you're
poor and
literally
shells.
saying, what are the other ones? Uncivilized?
Well, yeah,
How is
that's
it
the
not
question.
fucking bigoted?
Yeah, that's the question. Like, what do you even really mean when you say civilization, right? Like, do you just mean a group of people acting as a society?
Yes.
And
That's it. You can
is that
stop
it?
right there.
And that's it.
Group of people acting as a society, to me, is a civilization. Yes.
There you go.
There you go. It doesn't require possessions or money or power or whatever the hell.
Or
No.
even like this last one, he's gonna read it, but like it says, the overarching social order in which this state governance exists and is legitimized. Well, no, that's not the hallmark of a civilization.
Right. So then most of humanity, right? Because we happened like 300 or 200. It's hard to tell exactly, but certainly after 200 for sure. But so humanity until let's see, state. We talked about this. This form of the state was probably about 6,000 to 5,000 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's 5,000 for sure. Or 5,100, you can say, is the first, like, as Egypt really takes over a large swath of area.
Right.
As kind of like the first empire or whatever. So
but if you
that
need a
was
state to be a civilization,
legitimize
that
itself,
make,
right? That's what it did. It said, "Hey, we control it. Here's what's up."
Yeah.
But so I'm just saying, just think. So under that thing, everything else is uncivilized, right? So humanity from let's just say 200,000, right? 200,000 all the way to 5,000 were uncivilized.
Right.
Just think of how fucked that is and how wrong that is.
Yeah.
These people, even I would say before that, Neanderthals, there's evidence Neanderthals cared for years for people that had no teeth, like an old man. So someone probably either had to smash the food up or chew it up and give it to him for him to survive. Somehow, he was surviving.
Yeah.
And then there's ones with a child with deformities, probably could have a function right, totally being taken care of. I mean, that's civilized to me. You're taking care. That's civilized. So to me, Neanderthals had civilization. I mean, I don't. Anyway, just so people understand where I come from, because I don't want you to think I promote any of these definitions.
Right.
Like anybody, or even if Marx said that, I don't. To me, this is what, like Corey said, it's real simple. It's a group of humanity that's working together cooperatively. Nothing else. That is civilization.
Yeah.
Definitions of a civilization, how they manifest in our archaeological and art historical understanding, interpretation, analysis of the symbols, icons, and material culture. And Baines and Yaffe, so these are Egyptologists and Near Eastern specialists. Yaffe is one of my mentors. They define civilization as representing the overarching social order in which the state governance existed and is illegitimized. So in this way, it merged together that shared cultural values and the sociological definition of state. So states are more like civilization is like a bathwater, and then the states kind of emerge in these bathwaters. So in this way, it's similar to moss, but also emphasize that civilization is something attached to states, not all kind of societies. So in this case, the cultural definition and the sociological evolutionary definition are boats accommodated.
And I think that's
Yep,
pretty
that's-
much, yeah.
Right.
All right.
We're going to watch the more of his stuff, but we're going to watch it in as we go, where we read about it and we look at my art and we talk about it, whatever. So in pieces. So it's going to be 6 shows.
So we'll catch up with him again.
Yeah.
All right. So now I've got a map of China, looks like. It says 300,000-year-old human remains from Hua Longdong, HLD.
Right.
Morphological description and evolutionary significance of 300,000-year-old hominin facial bones from Hua Longdong, China. Abstract. Late middle Pleistocene
Yeah.
hominins in Africa displaying key modern morphologies by 315,000 years ago are claimed as the earliest Homo sapiens. Evolutionary relationships among East Asian hominins appear complex due to a growing fossil record of late middle Pleistocene
Yep.
hominins from the region, reflecting mosaic morphologies that contribute to a lack of consensus on when and how the transition to modern humans transpired. Newly discovered 300,000 years ago hominin fossils from Hua Longdong, China, provide further evidence to clarify these relationships in the region. In this study, facial morphology of the juvenile partial cranium, HLD6, is described and qualitatively and quantitatively compared with that of other key early, middle, and late Pleistocene hominins from East Asia, Africa, West Asia, and Europe, and with a sample of modern humans. Qualitatively, facial morphology of HLD6 resembles that of early and middle Pleistocene hominins from Zucudian, Nanjing, Dali, Jinishuan in China, as well as others from Java, Africa, and Europe in some of these features. An example is supraorbital and malar regions. And late Pleistocene hominins and modern humans from East Asia, Africa, and Europe in other features. For example, weak prognathism, a flat face, and features in nasal and hard plate regions. Comparisons of HLD6 measurements to group means and multivariate analysis support close affinities of HLD6 to late Pleistocene hominins and modern humans. Expression of mosaic morphological pattern in the HLD6 facial skeleton further complicates evolutionary interpretations of regional morphology diversity in East Asia. The prevalence of modern features in HLD6 suggests that the hominin population to which HLD6 belonged may represent the earliest pre-modern humans in East Asia. Thus, the transition from archaic to the earliest pre-modern or archaic to modern morphology in East Asian hominins may have occurred at least by 300,000 years ago, which is 80,000 to 100,000 years earlier than previously recognized.
But that still doesn't mean that people that now live in China are somehow not connected to people from Africa.
Right.
Just to wrap that up.
And just, yeah, put a little bow on it and make sure that everybody knows that. So Africa origin of modern humans. We've got a picture here. And
right. So in a sense, I show that it all starts from South Africa and then it all spreads out. And just these are just basic lines so you can kind of get an idea.
Right. Yeah.
That's how all humans spread it all over the globe in a sense. At the first dispersals or whatever.
Cool. Damien Marie AtHope's heart. Art. There are two geographically plausible routes that have been proposed for humans to emerge from Africa through the current Egypt and Sinai or northern route, or through Ethiopia, the Bab el Mandeb Strait, and the Arabian Peninsula or southern route. Although there is a general consensus on the African origin of early modern humans, there is disagreement about how and when they dispersed to Eurasia. This paper reviews genetic and Middle Stone Age / Middle Paleolithic archaeological literature from Northeast Africa, Arabia, and the Levant to assess the timing and geographic backgrounds of Upper Pleistocene human colonization of Eurasia. At the center of the discussion lies the question of whether Eastern Africa alone was the source of Upper Pleistocene human dispersals into Eurasia, or were there other loci of human expansions outside of Africa. And the reviewed literature hints at two modes of early modern human colonization of Eurasia in the other Upper Pleistocene. One, from multiple Homo sapiens source populations that had entered Arabia, South Asia, and the Levant prior to and soon after the onset of the last interglacial MIS5, or two, a rapid dispersal out of East Africa via the southern route across the Red Sea Basin, dating to 74,000 to 60,000 years ago. Within Africa, Homo sapiens dispersed around the time of its speciation, roughly 300,000 years ago. The so-called recent dispersal of modern humans took place about 70,000 to 50,000 years ago. It is this migration wave that led to the last spreading of modern humans throughout the world. The coastal migration between roughly 70,000 and 50,000 years ago is associated with mitochondrial haplogroups M and N, both derivative of L3. Europe was populated by an early offshoot that settled the Near East and Europe.
So L3 is in Africa, just so people know. So everyone outside of Africa, they're saying the mitochondrial was N and M. So
okay,
it branches into all kinds of different stuff. It's just saying that these are the ones everybody in Eurasia, whatever comes from, Americas, whatever, Australia, it doesn't, all these places. But they themselves come from L3, which is in Africa. So I'm just saying the DNA, we know this is true. It's not a guess, it's a fact.
Right. Everyone is derivative of L3.
There you go. Now we're cooking with grease.
Yeah. Europe was populated by an early offshoot that settled the Near East and Europe less than 55,000 years ago. Modern humans spread across Europe around about 40,000 years ago, possibly as early as 43,000 years ago, rapidly replacing the Neanderthal population. And then we have some images, maps of
right.
Asia
So
and Africa.
what these different colors are different times.
Okay.
Over in the corner it says Upper Paleolithic. So that way you can see how much people were populated all over the place.
Right. So that's interesting.
See, later Stone Age would be like the older, it's in a sense. Or
yeah. That's the oldest kind of stuff.
Or no, Lower Paleolithic is older. I just meant that it is older, I think, than the Upper Paleolithic.
Right.
I think they're showing these in chronological.
So early Stone Age is
right. They should have. Yeah, I would have done it up to down, but I know this. Archaeologists always think in the ground, like what's in the ground.
Right.
So that way you can understand that the lower is how far down did I have to dig to get to that thing. That's the oldest. But anyways, I'm just saying that's what those maps are trying to show, just so people can see for themselves the different ages and when people were where.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm just saying because that way I don't like people just to believe me. I want you to see.
Right, for sure. Yeah, if you can show it, that's way better than just taking your word for it, for sure.
Right, because just like you say, which is probably the clearest way you should say that all humans outside of Africa relate to L3. See, bam, done.
Right.
Well, because I'd say that there could be now people that left Africa later than that and are all over the place. But I meant like anybody that is non-African in a sense.
Right.
Lineage. Actually, you're
from that
L3, yeah.
So we got A lower Paleolithic was around 3.3 million to 300,000 years ago. The middle Paleolithic was around 300,000 to 50,000 years ago, and the upper Paleolithic was around 50,000 to 12,000 years ago. The ROCEEH Out of Africa database, ROAD, a large-scale research database, serves as an indispensable tool for human evolutionary studies. Abstract. Large-scale databases are critical for helping scientists decipher long-term patterns in human evolution. This pattern describes the conception and development of such a research database and illustrates how big data can be harnessed to formulate new ideas about the past.
And I added this because I wanted people to know that, like, it's not just, Chat GPT or whatever that's advancing. So is archaeology, obviously.
Right.
So I just meant, like, because, Graham Hank going out there and attacking archaeology. No, I really like archaeologists. I'm not saying I agree with every opinion they have.
Right.
But unless it's a fact, then they win.
It seems like even in archaeology, there's going to be disagreements in some things, and
True.
So
yeah, which I don't think is even an issue. Shouldn't be.
No,
I mean, unless science moves, right? Wackadoodle and unsupported, and then they shouldn't be there. No matter who's saying them.
Yeah, that's right.
But so that's why I try to say, even though I'm not an academic, I try really hard to build my stuff off of facts, and I consider reasonable speculations. Ones that are not like jumping off a bridge and just hoping that God's going to save you.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff is just, to me, logical fallacies. Any jump that's not connected to logic is not logical.
For sure. So the role of culture in early expansions of humans, ROCEEH, is a transdisciplinary research center whose aim is to study the origins of culture and the multifaceted aspects of human expansions across Africa and Eurasia over the last 3 million years.
You can stop there reading that and just go to the next thing.
Okay.
Because I wanted to just show, like I said, that
this
archaeology is advancing. So they're learning more and more. So I would trust archaeologists more as time goes on, not less.
Sounds good. Yeah, makes sense to me. And then there's a picture now. Looks like a map of Asia, East Eurasia, Oceania.
Right. What all those lines are humans expanding out of Africa.
Okay. Cool.
And so they just, because once again, I you know how I like to beat a dead horse. Because people get really confused, and sometimes DNA stuff's super confused. But this kind of picture helps you can see, there's N. Oh, that relates to where it says U up there in the north, N, little dots, and it says U 45,000 years ago is what that means.
Okay.
So 45,000 years ago, Eunuchs man's bone, which is an arm bone, was found. It's the oldest out of Africa and farthest north.
Okay. And that was 45,000 years ago.
Right. And see it, but it shows how it got there. It didn't just fly, right? It shows where it came from. You can follow it back.
For sure.
Anyway, so it just, I think it helps to grasp, especially when we're talking about all this DNA stuff that I like to talk about. You can kind of look and get some understanding.
Yep, for sure. Okay, the role of genetic selection and climatic factors in the dispersal of the anatomically modern humans out of Africa. From the abstract, the evolutionarily recent dispersal of an anatomically modern humans, AMH, out of Africa, OOA, and across Eurasia provides a unique opportunity to examine the impacts of genetic selection as humans adapted to multiple new environments. Analysis of ancient Eurasian genomic data sets, 1,000 to 45,000 years old, reveals signatures of strong selection, including at least 57 hard sweeps after the initial AMH movement, OOA, out of Africa.
Right.
Which have been obscured in modern populations by extensive admixture during the Holocene. The spatio-temporal patterns of these hard sweeps provide a means to reconstruct early
By the way, where
AMA
it says lasting 30,000 years. That why they. I don't know how come you're lazy and can't make the rest of the word, but yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes I
Uh,
like I said, like the stuff you abbreviate, like where it says
why?
like
Yeah.
1,000 to 45,000 Y old. I mean, well, you can't write years,
Was there a limit on characters?
right?
Is
So
this Twitter?
sometimes the things they abbreviate, I just go, why?
Yeah. Why did you do
But
that?
yeah,
Yeah. Provide the
potentially
means to
in the
reconstruct early AMH population dispersals out of Africa. We identify a previously unsuspected extended period of genetic adaptation lasting 30,000 years, potentially in the Arabian Peninsula area, prior to a major Neanderthal genetic introgression and subsequent rapid dispersal across Eurasia as far as Australia. Consistent functional targets of selection initiated during this period, which we term the Arabian standstill, include loci involved in the regulation of fat storage, neural development, skin physiology, and cilia function. Similar adaptive signatures are also evident in introgressed archaic hominin loci and modern Arctic human groups, and we suggest that this signal represents selection for cold adaptation. Surprisingly, many of the candidate selected loci across these groups appear to directly interact and coordinately regulate biological processes, with a number associated with major modern diseases, including ciliopathies, metabolic syndrome, and neurodegenerative disorders. This expands the potential for ancestral human adaptation to directly impact modern diseases, providing a platform for evolutionary medicine. And then we have a picture of Australian Aboriginal prehistoric sites.
right, because this helps people understand when did people out of Africa get to Australia.
Right.
And so I show dates and also locations that happened at. And by the way, the one that's 500,000, that's obviously not a human.
Right.
Probably
Okay.
Homo erectus or something.
Yeah.
But then also you see
Cool.
down there the map I show that how they
There's
kind of
like
went southern
yeah.
route to Australia,
Yeah. Kind
and
of
then
along
where
the
in
coast there.
relation China is, because they actually broke off and the other one went to China.
Okay. Yeah, it says 75,000 to 55,000 years ago, Australia found evidence that the Aborigines are descendants of people who left Africa before Asians and Europeans became distinct groups.
Yep.
Cool. So there were at least several out of Africa dispersals of modern humans, possibly beginning as early as 270,000 years ago, including 215,000 years ago to at least Greece, and certainly via northern Africa and Arabian Peninsula around 130,000 to 115,000 years ago. These early waves appear to have mostly died out or retreated by 80,000 years ago. The most significant recent wave of out of Africa took place about 70,000 to 50,000 years ago via the so-called southern route, spreading rapidly along the coast of Asia and reaching Australia by about 65,000 to 50,000 years ago. Though some researchers question the earlier Australian dates and place the arrival of humans there at 50,000 years ago at the earliest, while others have suggested that these first settlers of Australia may represent an older wave before the more significant out of Africa migration, and thus not necessarily be ancestral to the region's later inhabitants. While Europe was populated by an early offshoot which settled the Near East and Europe less than 55,000 years ago. An eastern dispersal from northeast Africa to Arabia 150,000 to 130,000 years ago, based on the finds at Jebel Faya, dated to 127,000 years ago, discovered in 2011. Possibly related to this wave are the finds from Zirandong Cave, southern China, dated more than 100,000 years ago. Other evidence of modern human presence in China has been dated to 80,000 years ago. The most significant out of Africa dispersal took place around 50 to 70,000 years ago via the so-called southern route. either before or after the Toba event, which happened between
The Toba event, just people know, was a volcano that erupted, and that's why they think it brought temperatures to make them colder, and then a lot of people died. They think, in fact, humans might have got down to about 3,000, maybe,
Oh,
population.
geez. Wow.
So that also is why the religion and culture and language and everything, in a sense, could be spread easy when you have only so few people.
For sure. Yeah, that's not very many people at all. So
Some question how little it got, but I'm just saying,
right.
it certainly wasn't a large number. However,
It wasn't billions.
no, it wasn't probably even 50,000. So
Right. Yeah.
but
Geez.
they say it could be as low as 3,000.
That's wild, actually.
Yeah.
That's really wild to me. Like that it was. There's so you think about like there was at one time less humans that existed potentially than the town I grew up in, which is a small town.
Right. It's crazy, right?
That's
But
crazy.
that's why I hammer so much how we're all related, and how everything we have is shared and it was transmitted culturally. I mean,
for sure.
Yeah. And culture, and Neanderthals had culture. Ooh, so everybody has it. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, go figure, eh?
Animals can have it. And just like this to get this thinking. Everybody looks at animals and they see the behavior and they think, aha, that's how that animal behaves. But that's not exactly the case. If you take that animal, like they've done before, right? You take a sheep and you put it with a bunch of dogs, it starts acting like dog.
Right.
Even a cow. I seen the one where someone did a cow, a baby cow, and they raised it with dogs, and it runs and it tries to do like a dog, And so I'm just saying that some of what even animals, what we think they do, is because they look around and they just copy what's around them.
Right.
So I'm just which I see as a kind of culture,
Yep, for sure.
Civilization, by the way, to me is different, right? Because civilization is you take care of yourself. So guess what? Also, even animals can do this.
Yep, that's right.
Going back to how Damien describes things from his perspective.
Yeah. So the Toba event, which happened between 69,000 and 77,000 years ago, this dispersal followed the southern coastline of Asia and reached Australia around 65,000 to 50,000 years ago, or according to some research, by 50,000 years ago at the earliest. Western Asia was reoccupied by a different derivation from this wave around 50,000 years ago, and Europe was populated from Western Asia beginning around 43,000 years ago. Wells, in 2003, describes an additional wave of migration after the southern coastal route, namely a northern migration into Europe at circa 45,000 years ago. However, this possibility is ruled out by Macaulay et al. 2005 and Post et al. In 2016, who argue for a single coastal dispersal with an early offshoot into Europe.
I don't really have an opinion because I just say whatever finally the science proves, just so people know.
Right.
I don't have the skin in the game. I just want what's true. To me, they both could be true. I see lines doing different things, but I don't really care. I have no, we're still all from Africa.
Right.
Still all from L3.
Yeah, that's right. The specific timing is, sure. I mean, it's great or whatever. It's important, but doesn't change that.
Right, because we know for 100% fact what the DNA was. Which route they took, I don't know exactly. But we have a very good idea of most of it. But I'm just saying, and we're still all from L3, as Corey so eloquently pointed out.
So now we've got some more art.
And this is the ones on the bottom are talking about China, how China's, and as you see, China got it from, in a sense, a north and a southern route, no matter if they all came from the same point.
Right.
So people that were in, so I show here. So people went the southern route into China, which is the one here you see. It says southern route 60,000.
Yep.
And then they went, it says northern route 30,000, but that has to do with when they kind of got to Lake Balka. Not,
Okay.
okay. Or which is Siberia, right above Mongolia. And then
So not necessarily like when they left kind of thing. That'd be like
correct. That's not right. Exactly. I'm trying to explain on this map just what you see.
right.
They were in China 60,000 years ago. See what I'm saying? They were in Siberia 30,000 years ago, and they took two different routes.
Mm-hmm.
And then those routes merged together to make what is now China. See what I'm saying?
Yep, for sure.
Okay. So, but this has to do with culture. So one goes to China, right? And I see this, to me personally, as some sort of animism. Okay.
Okay.
So 60,000, these people. So the one arrow coming the south has that. Okay. Now I'm going to explain to me what I think the northern arrow. The other arrow to me goes into France and Germany, sometime 50,000 to 40,000. Okay.
Okay.
And to me, somewhere between France and Germany, I think they turned their animism into totemism, started making figurines and related to their culture, I believe. Then, it's not on here, but I'll just explain. Then there was people in Siberia, okay, that had gone from P, which is kind of like through, they went from Africa in a sense also, but they split off instead of going all the way to China, they split off and started going to Siberia, okay? Then the other ones finished going to China. So they had left and got to P gets to Siberia. As we know, that one DNA where I talked about, the Eunuchs man or whatever it's called, because I know I'm saying it wrong, but this like 40 something or 45,000 years ago in Siberia, oldest DNA, whatever.
Okay.
To be that far north. So that, in a sense, to me, he was part of the, of course, animism coming from off of the lineage that came from Africa and went to China. He goes up there, but then that DNA splits from P, there's P1 maybe, but from P to Q and R, and R makes U, okay, U DNA. So, and Q goes to Asia, right? And I think, to me, that sometime around then, because it seems like Q and R and U have shamanism, some form. Okay. So I think this is why people said before that they thought shamanism really kind of relates to animism. I do. I think that animism and then an offshoot in the Siberia became shamanism. Okay.
Okay.
But it's not shamanism like we know today. So it's a form of like ritual healer that it goes into spirit worlds and stuff. Okay. So to me, then a branch of them goes to where it says gravitans. You see that? Or gravedians or
Yeah, however you say
I
that.
apologize for being stuck at the names. But anyway, so gravedians relate to U-DNA, U5 for the females. So U5 goes from Siberia, which is, to me, where it says the two things, the gravitans or whatever, and then the ancient North Eurasians.
Yep.
The spot in between them, that's to me where, in a sense, shamanism starts. Like between them, not either culture. They become both cultures, really, but it's, in a sense, in somewhere in here, because I think because the Q goes into the ancient North Eurasians and all the way to Lake Balka.
Okay.
Because even Mop Boy, whatever, has, I think, some Q, not very much, but anyways, and then U becomes the gravitans. The first gravitan burial is in Russia, right? But then the next one is in the Czech Republic, and the Czech Republic buries the first shaman, to me.
Okay.
So, but that doesn't mean that. So some people get confused, like how? Well, if that's where the first shamanism. So is shamanism originating in, Czech Republic? No. To me, so because also shamanism is evolved. Just to me, like everything, religion, every concept is evolved. So it goes to me here, right, and it gets a certain kind of ways of things, which I think is then evident even in the figurines that start getting made, they have like things over their face, and everybody thinks like that they're dehumanizing them. No, shamanism, they put things over their face, and they can see the spirit world. Or if you have a damaged eye, which that first shaman, I think is a shaman, and other people do, but not everybody, but a lot of even archaeologists, but some don't. But anyway, so that person has a damaged eye, and there's even the first it's ivory, an ivory head carved that looks like a woman with her eye damaged, which matches the actual one, which I think is a shaman buried. Anyways,
interesting.
So in a sense, so there's a loose forming of the origins of shamanism, and then it goes like this, and they have the first burial of 3 people, whatever, tons of beads, like 1,500 beads on his clothes and stuff, like just already doing some culture stuff. Looks almost like Native American beadwork or whatever. So anyway, so then it goes from Russia, right? Because it starts in Siberia, it goes to Russia, and then it goes to Czech Republic. Then it goes from Czech Republic, in a sense, back to Russia. But this time, going back to our map, this time it goes to that Kostytyonki or whatever.
Kostyonki?
Yeah.
Or
whatever that thing. See, it says relates to Eastern gravitans. So
yes,
the gravitans. So what I'm saying is, so they go, in a sense, they over to that area, right? Some of them.
Okay.
And then that area, then to me, becomes another kind of shamanism.
Interesting. Okay.
But this time it's along the way when they buried the person in Czech Republic, then they got figurines in Austria. Once they did that, to me, which they have those figurines, like there's a 31,000, I think it is. So I think that's when it happened, like when they mixed totemism.
Okay.
So they met because the other culture, the agrarian or organization, something like that. Anyways, we're already in Germany and France and anyways, and other parts of Europe, but they are the ones that make the first like figurines in a sense.
Okay.
And then it's not until Czech Republic is here, and and you have these other ones coming. And then by the time they almost stop doing it, so the Orcanations stop as a culture, and in a sense, and the figurines get then picked up by the Gravitans or Gravettians.
Okay.
To me, when they do that about 31,000 or 30,000 years ago, that's when they added totemism to shamanism. So now, to me, it's animism turned into totemism in Germany and France or somewhere over in the West. Then the other a branch that split off of the one going to China goes to Siberia first. When it's up there, to me, it invents out of animism, it invents a early type of shamanism that had some of the core elements. Didn't have drumming, doesn't have probably a lot of stuff, but it's just. So I'm just saying. So then it goes, moves to Europe. Does the first burial right after that, or at that time, it's almost the same time, but a little bit before that, they meet the totemists. So it already is changing. They pick up some stuff. Then they take that shamanism, totemism, animism, of course, because it's always there. They bring it to that part in Russia. Okay. And then that part in Russia takes that idea and, to me, invents, I think, the predecessor of the totem pole, because instead of just doing the figurines that look like humans, right? Or generally it's women, but these ones have one head and then a long stick.
Okay.
One human face and long stick, but also they did male and female.
Interesting.
And so they're already doing something different. Now that is the totemistic shamanism from that region, is what I think goes over to Lake Balka.
Okay.
See right there where it says ancient North Eurasians. It goes into the ancient North Eurasians. Okay.
Right.
And goes near Lake Balka where it says Malta boy. Okay. That's the Malta bar culture, which is over there in the corner. It says 24,000 to 15,000. Right. So that culture, just so people know, is where everyone, like, or not everyone, so a lot of people, because especially Lake Balka, that is real important to, you'll see in a second, but so that this culture is real important, and everyone thinks that, because when there's some arguments about what the word shamanism means and all kinds of stuff, just so people know. So archaeologists, there's all over the place. But here's the other thing I wanted to say is that also there's a statement people make, and they say, this is the traditional homeland of shamanism. What they're talking about is basically like anywhere in the vicinity of Lake Balka or ancient North Eurasians, in a sense.
Okay.
Okay. Or also then goes to China or whatever. But my point is, when they say that, they're actually talking about a evolved already, to me, version of shamanism, because it wasn't even the totemism shamanism mix that the in a sense the Gravettians or Gravitans, whatever, made. It's what the people in Russia made. Their stuff looks almost exactly or very close to the people in Siberia, but does not look as close to the people, and there's no kind of stick figure things in all of Europe.
We're about to be interrupted.
Oh, we are? Okay.
I heard the girls coming down the stairs.
But you get what I'm saying? So even by the time, to me, what they think is the homeland of shamanism, and even though I say it's from Siberia, I'm talking about Western Siberia on the border with Russia, maybe even in Russia. See what I'm saying? Because they're migratory.
For sure.
Not Lake Balka, even though I talk about that a lot. That I talk about it, but that actually, to me, already got shamanism starts in West, Siberia, and then goes to Czech Republic, and then picks up near Austria and Czech Republic over. It picks up some totemism, and it starts going. But that totemism, once it hits that part of Russia over near Georgia and in Azerbaijan, I think, but in the sense that in between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. Anyways, when it goes over in that area, that's when it makes, I think, totem poles. And the oldest totem pole they found is in Russia at 11,000 years old. So that doesn't exactly prove what I'm saying, although the figurines are in that shape. So I say that certainly. So and those similar kind of things are even found, like totem poles are even found in Siberia and China that are, big, tall, long totem poles. So like I said, which to me is kind of like the figurine, because it's not like it's a short figurine that's human size with a head. It's like 3 times the size of a human with a head.
Okay.
In a sense, that would be proportional. It's very which is like, it looks like a totem pole in a sense. Like I said.
Right.
And then the early totem pole they found is basically a body with a human head, which I really think relates to the clan. Like senator, like a great grandfather or whatever, kind of something like that. Because I think that they had, in a sense, to me, kind of a lot of them seem to be how they're burying some men is that they built the men are, which is kind of like the Koraks. If you go read about that culture, which is kind of Siberian, but it's isolated on an island. But anyways, their culture, how they have things, the men are like the clan leaders in a sense, and then the women are the shamans. So I'm just saying, and then the first burial of a shaman to me in Czechoslovakia is a female.
Okay.
And then there's another, looks like a shaman to me, buried by Gravitans in North Italy. It's also female. Then there's a burial in Israel that is also a female. And they have our DNA, and our DNA came from the U that went and made all the shamanism in Europe. And R goes down into Africa and brings, I think, this rougher version of shamanism, sort of different. Like I said, because the other one, U, starts with, I think U, R, and Q start with an original kind of loose idea of shamanism, a branch off of animism. So I'm saying, but then by the time Yu's going around picks up, you know, in a sense, totemism from the Orcination culture, then it takes it to Russia. Russia makes it more. Russia sends it, in a sense, not sends
Okay.
it. The people take those ideas,
It goes, yeah.
cultural ideas, and then it becomes to me in Siberia.
Okay.
So just trying to explain like what this is all kind of like trying to explain it, why it's important.
For sure. Yeah. All the different things moving around, it definitely feeds into the different religions and cultures and whatnot.
Right. And it's also to me why it is all so like I'm not saying everything is the same. Like I said, I'm
Right.
saying opposite, that even everywhere it practically moved, it changed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So just so I'm saying, even though I talk in global terms, shamanism, I'm actually
Right.
there's multiple kinds. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the original shamanism probably didn't have drums, probably just was some sort of way of communicating with the spirits. I don't know if it required dancing and chanting and stuff. It may, because some of the first, like it's like they call it the dancing woman. It's made green something. Which is a bunch in Asia about why green, and even in Americas, right? They really cared about jade and stuff. There's a big thing about what it means. I think it means primordial waters or whatever. Like, but anyways, so, but it looks like she's like one arm up and one arm down. Anyways, like she's dancing or something. And so I don't know. I just say that I know that
Could be,
there's
maybe not.
a religious. Well, it's like religious ritualism. But it's connecting to the spirits because it's heavy spirits because to me it shoots off of animism.
Mm-hmm.
Totemism shoots off of animism also, but then they merge together, and then there's never again, in a sense, completely removed from each other, sort of.
Right.
Even ones that people say is totemistic only, they usually have the person they call a witch doctor, which I say is still
part of shamanism.
Right. And the only reason that people know too, I don't care if it was all called witch doctorism, just so people grasp this. I'm not trying to force some word. I just try to talk in a colloquial term to people so that average people can understand like all this stuff.
Yeah, it's like at some point you do have to like you make categories and different things fit into those categories. And
right. So I'm not. So this just to make a point when we've talked about before, there could be like say 50 different cultures and 50 different words for what they call what I am calling shamanism. Right. I'm saying? But they're it all
fits in the category.
But it all fits in the category. They all like do this with spirits and they all feel sort of and all or do what there's certainly you can see the relation. And that's what I'm even if you call them all priests. This is what I'm saying. But this is a priest that is not dealing with always with the deity.
Yeah, it's like
ancestors,
you know, priests or shamans.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So you get what I'm trying to say, but it's a different. They have a different focus. In other words.
Yeah.
So yeah,
for sure. I think I get you.
Yeah. And then the next picture, do you see it says 32 sacred carvings. These are not actual writing, probably, but it's symbolism that obviously they kept using.
Right, it had meaning.
It had meaning. So but it's just good to go to back that if writing, remember they said has to have writing.
Right.
And if they're using cultural symbols with meaning, isn't that what we say when we say writing?
That's really all writing is, right?
You just mean that it's not a full writing system.
Yeah.
But it's like is a stop sign that doesn't say stop but is red and looks octagonal or whatever it is, would you not know it's a stop sign?
That's still a stop sign. Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying? You get what I'm trying to make a comment or whatever. Yellow is a yield or whatever has a triangle or whatever kind of shape. I'm just saying that. So I'm not saying these are full languages. I'm just saying, or whatever, but I'm just saying, once again, like the word culture, I think an honest interpretation without bias is that a symbol that represents something is part of language. It's just not full language to me.
I think that's fair.
Especially if they keep using it, but that's what this chart tries to show. Right. They start in France. One is France. See what I'm saying? Once again, why is this important? This goes back to what I already told you, right? The totemism starts in France, but so these symbols start in France. Then they leave France, but once you understand that I already told you that France went to Austria, right, to Germany and Austria, and then from Austria the people picked up their culture, the Gravitans, right, and then the Gravitans took it over to Asia, or they took it over. I should say that's not right. They took it over to Russia. Russia took it over to Asia.
Okay.
To say it a little bit better.
Yep. That's fair.
So one way I showed you the maps of everybody's moving around, right, and the cultural DNA and the cultural diffusion of items. And then here we're trying to show you that even if we didn't know that, we would kind of know that something happened, because look at all these symbols. Right. And if you map them, like you can almost map like what they did in a sense.
Right. Yeah, there's similarities, and they kind of move through time and across places, and
So anyways, and then you can go down and you don't have to read all the different types. Just read the thing after it says, even though not all signs shown.
Even though not all signs are shown, paleoanthropologist von Petzinger found through investigation of Europe's cave art that there are at least 32 shapes. These are possibly a sort of writing's origin, seen many times and places, thus the world's oldest sacred code. A paleoanthropologist and rock art researcher explains that even though to many written language is the hallmark of human civilization, this construct and behavior didn't just suddenly appear one day. Thousands of years before the first fully developed writing systems, our ancestors scrawled geometric signs across the walls of the caves they sheltered in. She has studied and codified these ancient markings in caves across Europe, suggesting that graphic communication and the ability to preserve and transmit messages beyond a single moment in time may be much older than we think. And then we have another map.
Yes.
But I'll be right back.
Maps, but it's all but the reason I do this, because I talk about a lot of really complicated stuff that if you didn't see what I was talking about, it would be even harder.
Yeah, it would be almost impossible to understand just by the words that are expressed. It's right. Visually, it makes sense.
but that's what I've told you before. Is I'm not trying to do all this stuff for academics. They can write if they want to. But my point is that the average person understands this, so that then they have a grasp on it. So even when the academics say different stuff, you're like, okay, because sometimes people get confused because it sounds like, well, things are all over the place. Yeah, it's complicated as fuck.
Yeah, things are all over the place.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean that there's not a coherent story. It's just the story is very complex.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. It's all really interesting, actually. I mean, it all kind of confirms the idea that everybody kind of came out of Africa.
Right.
And you can show it like that. I think is really neat. But even things we think of as separate, like Australia or North America, you can still show that we're all from Africa.
Exactly.
Essentially. So, yeah.
Oh, no, not essentially. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The fact. And like you said, I know some of the stuff, how to show the culture along the way, which is what I want to show, because I want people to understand. Plus, a lot of this goes back to, like I already told you, not because I care about religion. I'm actually anti-religionist.
Right.
But my anti-religion isn't some bigotry. It's just that I think the religions are toxic, and most of the time that people can take toxic stuff, they have to use it in small amounts. But some people get a immunity to toxins, and you can just take lots of them. It still doesn't make them good. Even if you took an amount of a toxin that would kill a normal person because you've worked up to it, that still doesn't equal that it's good. But anyways, I'm just saying. But
it's funny. Some poisons you get immune to, and some poisons, the longer you get exposed to them, the more they kill you.
So that doesn't mean there's not good people to me in religions. There
Yes.
absolutely is, and people can use and look at religion and find good things. I commend
For
them
sure.
if you can do that. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's certainly not the norm, because a lot of
Yeah.
people that have a lot of religion have a lot of bigotries. So
Yeah, it seems
yeah.
like more often than not, it's a tool used to oppress and separate and
Right. So like I said, so my thing is this. I hope two things, right? A, you become an atheist and start living life in reality and realize that all this shit, like I'm showing you, is made up. And even if it's traditional, okay, it's old and traditional. And if you really want to follow traditional, then go back to animism and go look at the tribes like the Hadza in Africa. That's traditional. If you really want to get traditional,
yeah,
that's traditional. And like I already said, since I like the kind of anarchist attitude and socialist attitude they have, yeah. In fact, society
that's actually pretty
learn
good.
that shit.
That's right.
I'm ready to go to that kind of traditional.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, so I'm just, because what I'm trying to say about that is that not only do I think that religions are false, I think they're cultural, and this is what I'm trying to show. They're cultural.
For sure. Yeah.
So that's so what because I want to do is give it back its humanness. It's a human thing. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Sure.
So that, you can.
That is pretty amazing,
right?
I like that.
But don't forget it's the humanness. So to me, but so then the other if those long lost hopes don't make it, that all my information doesn't inspire this. The other hope is that you grasp that all religions are connected. So fucking stop hating people.
Yeah.
How about that?
How about that?
Right? I mean, you're going to really fucking boil it down. I'm trying to show you, here's the tree that they grow from.
Yeah. Quit pretending you are all so different and separate. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So not that they can't have particularities, but
of course.
There's, like I'm trying to show, there's all this connection. And then there's the bigotry. It's just, it looks foolish.
There's
if you're going to
more connection than division.
Right. If you're going to keep religion and you want to know the truth, right, about religion, I'm giving you some truth. It's all connected in all kinds of ways. But I mean, I shouldn't say all connected. A lot of it has connections. So because of that, in a sense, in a big picture way, they all come out of Africa as animism. So they're all animism. Like I said before, to me, all our ancestors were anarchist, socialist, animists. That's what we all were. There was probably some atheists too, because once again, animism doesn't force that shit on you. The fuck do they give a shit what you believe exactly? I mean, they don't have a lot of stuff. So, yeah.
For sure. So I suppose we've got another map.
Yes.
Shows ancient northern Siberia and Europe, and there's lines on it showing where.
Right. So, and then Malta is the Maltabar culture, and that little thing next to it is the Lake Balka.
Okay.
Or Baikal or whatever. Once again, I'm sure I say that shit wrong. But so you see where I had told you that the DNA breaks off of China, remember?
Right.
See the one that goes to China? Like Tianyuan, whatever?
Yeah, Tianyuan.
Right. In a sense, that's like China. So what I'm saying is, but you see what I said, that the people that went to P, right? So this breaks off.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and then when it gets over there and then in Siberia, right, it splits and it says European. Right. European. Right. So in a sense, it's showing that the DNA is going over there. This has to do with you, where I was telling you about. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
R and then U. But R doesn't go to Europe as much. R at that time, R goes to, in a sense, Malta culture in Lake Balka.
Okay.
So U goes into Europe in a sense.
Interesting.
So you, like I said, and then that's the Graviton culture. All their females in a sense, or majority of the females are U something.
Okay.
U1, U2, U5. Okay, U6, which comes off of where it says right here, just so you can grasp this. So the P goes up and then it splits. U is comes from R, which R and Q are right there at that little intersection. So U comes over here, but U6 goes all the way back to Africa. 30,000 years ago, it's already in North Africa, and then through probably Israel or something. I'm not exactly sure. But then it goes, I think 20,000 years ago, over into North Africa on the western side to the Morocco area.
Okay,
so
interesting.
Those were a backflow, which to me could have brought shamanism or a brand of shamanism. But remember, since it breaks before they meet the Orca nations, it doesn't have totemism yet to me.
Ah, okay.
And seems saying, or unless the whole region had already been taken over by totemism ideas. But I really think when the 30 something thousand years ago in Austria, in Czechoslovakia, somewhere on the border or whatever, maybe that area is where totemism and shamanism to me merge.
Okay.
As concepts. But anyways, I was just saying this is to help you also see this is a scientific map explaining like what I'm talking about. So
right.
And how I know this.
And then we've got another picture underneath that.
Right. By the way, you can also click. I think there's an article that explains all that stuff if you're interested. I didn't explain anything, just use the map.
Yes, there is a reference there.
Right. Just saying that I often have even more information if you just click links.
Right, for sure. Yeah, there's references all the way throughout all of this. So, like, there's lots of people wanted to check it out. Like, there's lots they could learn.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so our next picture is starts with ANE is association with the MA1 or Malta Boy 24,000 years ago.
Okay, and AME is ancient North Eurasians.
Right. Okay.
Just so you know, that's what it means. It says that on the map or thing too. So go ahead and keep reading.
Yeah, it does. It does, in fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So groups partially derived from the ancient North Eurasians. The ANE lineage is defined by association with the MA1 or Malta Boy remains of 24,000 years ago in central Siberia, Malta Beret culture, 24,000 to 15,000 years ago. The ancient North Eurasians or ANE samples Afontova, Gora 3, Malta 1, and Yana-RHS.
Okay, so Afontova, Gora 3. This one, these are the people that eventually have the yellow hair coloring.
Oh, okay.
So anybody in the world that has yellow hair coloring, it actually came from that.
It's related to that?
Yes, it is.
Okay, neat. So they show evidence for a minor gene flow from an East Asian related group, simplified by the Amos Han or Tianyuan, but no evidence for ANE related gene flow into East Asians, Amos Han or Tianyuan, except the Ainu of North Japan.
And the Ainu of North Japan are white European looking, sort of, compared to the rest of Japan. They at one time probably took half of Japan. Now they're only on one little island, and anyways, which they would like their island back, but
right,
because they're indigenous people. But anyways, because they were there before the other people in Japan, because the other people in Japan basically came from Korea.
Okay.
I think 1500s or something, or I can't remember now. But they brought, maybe it was earlier, they brought Buddhism and other stuff into Japan. Yeah, because the Japan's like religion is a Shinto, not
right.
But a lot of them do Buddhism too, but and Shinto at the same time. But yeah, religions are made up. You can just do what you want. It's culture. Just take things you like.
Yeah, take what you like and leave the rest.
Right, but in a sense, if you understand how I see it, then that's what people have been doing this whole time. That's what I'm trying to explain.
Yeah, for sure.
But I was just saying, so that these people are shamanists also, this Anu, and they're in North Japan. And their culture, especially their bear worship and shamanism stuff, matches the Sami that we already talked about,
right,
all the way over in Sweden and Finland and Norway.
Okay.
So the ones that are all up there, they have a religious cultural connection all the way to
Neat.
Japan, North
That's
Japan.
cool.
Those people, yeah. And it's because of the ancient North Eurasians. So I was trying to explain.
Ah, yep. The A&E lineage is defined by association with the MA1 or Malta boy, remains of 24,000 years ago, in central Siberia, Malta beret culture, 24,000 to 15,000 years ago. Basal to modern day Europeans.
Right. Basil means like the origin. How about that?
Okay.
So that's also why when I look at people and I tell if they're a certain skin color or something, you can almost tell, or language or region, I know where they come back to, because I understand how the DNA spread.
Okay. Some ancient North Eurasians also carried East Asian populations such as Tian Yuan, Man. Bronze Age steppe, Yamnaya, and Afan Asivo cultures were A&E at around 50%, and Eastern hunter-gatherer EHG at around 75%
Pause for a
A&E.
second. So the Eastern hunter gatherers, I think, are, I don't know, but they could be as high as 50% themselves, but maybe it's less. I have to go look, of A&E ancestry. So in other
Okay.
words, pure A&E ancestry and Eastern hunter gatherers who also had a good portion of the ancestry
Right.
made up these people. So that ends up being a lot of ancestry. You see what I'm saying?
Yep, for sure.
Because once you put a pure and a 50%, that ends up being pretty high.
Right. You're
So
mixing, basically, yeah, like you say, you become like 75% or 80% or
right,
whatever it is.
exact. There you go.
Yeah.
In a sense, yes. Because when they say you're this other ancestry, but that other ancestry wasn't by itself, it's from that other culture.
Right.
You've got both of them, the original version and then the watered down version. But anyways, so also to understand, Yamaya are say in Ukraine. Let's just make it simple, right? They
Mm-hmm.
probably Ukraine and Russia, but and then the other culture I think is the one that's over in Siberia and relates to the right before, but then probably how the chariot passed, because the chariot
Okay.
comes from more like near Russia and Ukraine, comes from there and actually goes down into the Middle East all the way to Egypt, goes into the Sumerians, right? Because we saw them with their chariots. And then it also goes all the way over to the cultures in that culture right there. I think it's that one in Atheist-Humanist-Leftist, whatever culture. Anyways, it goes over to there near China or Lake Balka, whatever. It goes over there, and then from there it goes down into China. And so that's why the Chinese get it by like probably 3,200 years ago.
Okay.
It may have been made anywhere between 5,000 and 4,000 years ago, and then from where I've said near Russia and Ukraine area, like somewhere over there. And those are the same ones though that went to India too. So they go to India, they go to Iran, they go to Iraq, and they went to Egypt. And
Okay.
everyone all of a sudden gets chariots.
Huh.
Wow. Guess what they also did? I'm saying this is crazy. This is what really happened. Then the chariots go from there, right? From there, also into Germanic peoples, and then over to England. Because England and Ireland both had chariots. That even the Romans, when the Romans, and I'm saying eventually, it's not like it happened right away.
Right.
Celts and then went to. Anyways, so I'm not saying I don't know when it got to England, but I'm saying it got to England in a sense, originally starting near Ukraine and Russia. So and then they took over everybody. I'm just saying, or the chariots certainly did. Their soldiers, and then the people copied it. But so, anyways, the Romans, when the Romans showed up in England, they were shocked that the people there were attacking them with chariots. That's something like in their old history, or something. Right. It's like someone bringing out a World War II tank, or something, or whatever, in a sense, or maybe even older than that. World War One or something. But to them it was like odd, like wow, you still using that?
Right.
Anyway, I'm just saying so, but you got to get that all of this comes out of this area.
Okay. So we also have, it says Karelia culture, Y-DNA, R1A, M417, 8,400 years ago. The Y-DNA, J, 7,200 years ago. And Samara of Y haplogroup R1B, P297, was 7,600 years ago, is closely related to ANE from an Afontova Gora 18,000 years ago, around the time of the first blonde hair seen.
Right. See, I told you about the blonde hair.
Yep. So ancient North Eurasian. In archaeogenetics, the term ancient North Eurasian, often abbreviated as ANE, is the name given to an ancestral West Eurasian component that represents descended from the people similar to the Malta-Beret culture and the populations closely related to them, such as from Afontova Gora and the Yana-RHS horn site.
And just so you know, I think the Yana-RHS horn site also, besides relating to them, relates to the Native Americans.
Okay, interesting.
Oh, it
Significant. Oh yeah, it does. So significant A&E ancestry.
People understand. I'm not always reading it. I just know things. So...
Right. Yeah. So you'll say something, and then it'll be there.
Yeah. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, good. You backed it up.
Yeah. Significant A&E ancestry are found in some modern populations, including Europeans and Native Americans. The A&E lineage is defined by association with the MA1 or Malta boy, the remains of an individual who lived during the last glacial maximum 24,000 years ago in central Siberia. Excuse me. Ancient North Eurasians are described as a lineage which is deeply related to Paleolithic, Mesolithic hunter-gatherers in Europe, meaning that they diverged from Paleolithic Europeans a long time ago. The ANE population has also been described as having been basal to modern-day Europeans, but not especially related to East Asians, and is suggested to have perhaps originated in Europe or Western Asia, or the Eurasian steppe of Central Asia. However, some samples associated with the ancient North Eurasians also carried ancestry from an ancient East Asian population, such as Tianyuanman. Sikora et al. 2019 found that the Yana-RHS sample 31,600 BP.
BP means, just so you know, means before present. So from now on, you can just say years ago. Like, you don't need fucking...
Why did they do that?
Different things. And this goes back to before present. So they just mean like in other words, instead of saying the before Christianization, right? That BP before Christ or after death or whatever, they called it actually something different, but in reality. But what I'm saying is, instead of doing the BP thing, they're just saying, in a sense, years ago. But
right.
But all these numbers, just so you understand, are rough. That's like when I say it's 30,000 shamanism. I think it may have even been 35 that it started.
Okay.
And like I told you, but I just say 30 because could it be 30 also? Yeah, maybe you know what I'm saying. So, but I really think it's 35 or something.
Yeah, like even 31,600 years ago seems pretty precise in a sense compared to what some of these numbers we're working with.
Right, yeah, true. But I was just trying to say that when you see BP, that's what it means.
Okay. So yeah, in northern Siberia can be modeled as early as Western Eurasian with an approximately 22% contribution from early East Asians. Populations genetically similar to MA1 were an important genetic contributor to Native Americans, Europeans, Central Asians, South Asians, and some East Asian groups. In order of significance, Lazardis et al. 2016 note a cline of ANE ancestry across the east-west extent of Eurasia. The ancient Bronze Age steppe, Yamnaya and Afanazevo, cultures were found to have a noteworthy A&E component at 50%, according to Moreno-Mayer.
And by the way, all this in a sense references that map that I showed, just a bunch of lines. So you can see where, because it wasn't exactly that one family did everything, right? If you even look at the thing, right, go up to the map.
Right.
You're looking at it now?
Yep.
Yeah. So you see that the A&E, but you see all the ones that went to America is not the exact same one that went down to Iran.
Right. Yeah, you got
right. It's all the same family or kind of similar group of culture and DNA and stuff. They're similar, but that does not mean that it was the same people. Some people get this confused. That's why you see what I'm saying. I mean, it is confusing, but I'm saying, but I'm trying to show you that even though it says, "Oh, they all came from these people," okay, yeah, but they're all different.
Right. Yeah, they all came from these people, but they all are different people now, or when they moved.
Just think, right? It's like if you and then a cousin, and then a grandfather, and and then an uncle or something. It's not all the same person. I'm just saying it could be all from different families too. Exactly. So it's not. Right. I'm just making a comment that this is a big, large area and a big group, and if you see, they're not all directly connected. That's all I was trying to show too.
For sure.
And then you see that the North Japan is what it says, the Anu. That's so you can see on the map that's what all that reading. You still got something to do, but that's what it's all talking about.
Okay.
So you can go back to the reading.
According to Moreno-Mayer et al. 2018, between 14% and 38% of Native American ancestry may originate from gene flow from the Malta-Bure people, A&E. This difference is caused by the penetration of the posterior Siberian migrations into the Americas, with the lowest percentages of A&E ancestry found in Eskimos and Alaskan natives, as these groups are the result of migrations into the Americas roughly 5,000 years ago. Estimates for A&E ancestry among first-wave Native Americans show higher percentages, such as 42% for those belonging to the Andean region in South America. The other gene flow in Native Americans, the remainder of their ancestry, was of East Asian origin. Gene sequencing of another South Central Siberian people, Afontova Gora II, dating to approximately 17,000 years ago, revealed similar autosomal genetic signatures to that of Malta Boy 1, suggesting that the region was continuously occupied by humans throughout the last glacial maximum.
By the way, that culture right there is the one that Graham Hancock's website has an article explaining that, where he thinks the alternative hypothesis that those people who were white and had blonde hair or red hair, that those people went over to the Americas. And that's this secret culture. And obviously there's no secret, and we're explaining.
Right.
And they also didn't. They also didn't go that way. So no,
not so secret. And also, you're wrong.
You're wrong, and not really a secret. Complicated is all shit. Yes, Corey probably feels like it's overwhelming, and the knowledge in one show is like.
Yeah, I'm definitely not absorbing all of it. That's that's for sure. Yeah.
But wouldn't you say but you still have gotten more than most people do?
Oh yeah, I think I'm getting some of it. Like, and I mean, it probably helps, of course, that we've talked about various DNA and languages and cultures throughout our time doing the show. So
it makes it more understandable too when you hear that and you hear the maps and stuff.
Yeah. Actually, seeing the maps really makes a big difference, I think.
Right, and that's why I make them and try to explain, because I think that the stuff I'm saying is probably beyond people, but when you can see it, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's what I hope, at least.
Yeah, it's much easier to have a picture in front of you, and rather than just being like, okay, so this DNA went up that way, and this DNA broke off of it and went down this way.
Right.
Yeah, the picture makes a big difference.
But like I said, I appreciate you doing it. I know it can be hard. I really talk about hard subjects.
It is like it is the kind of stuff that, I mean, people who are into this, they study it. This is what
Oh,
they
yeah.
do. So it's for the average person, this is maybe a little bit higher than they would expect to
Right.
read, but it's I think I'm starting to get it.
Right.
2 years in, I think I'm starting to pick some of it up.
Right.
Yeah.
But like I said, I also simplify it right at the beginning, because I say, to me, religion is a product of culture, and this
Right.
is just all proving that. That's all.
Yeah, that's right. This is just all people moving around and doing culture, and
Yeah.
yeah,
The whole time, not like something that happened as soon as state showed up.
right, exactly, yeah.
Which,
So
like I said, also, like, as always, it was just fun. I think is that this show always does these hard things, but isn't exactly a history show. It's actually, I'm really caring a lot more about anarchism and
right,
explaining, so also people understand everybody's connected, man. What the fuck?
yeah, it's a very humanist show that has
Yeah.
talking about ancient history as a means of that.
There you go.
Yeah, for sure. The earliest known individual with a genetic mutation associated with blonde hair in the modern Europeans is an ancient North Eurasian female dating to around 16,000 BCE from the Afontova Gora III site in Siberia. It has been suggested that their mythology may have included a narrative found in both Indo-European and some Native American fables, in which a dog guards the path to the afterlife.
Right, because when people move, they take their mythology with them. Shocking.
Yeah,
I
go
know
figure,
that.
hey?
Because
You mean that if I move to Quebec or down to the States, my views on religion are not going to change just because of my region?
No, right? Well,
And in fact, until I spend time there, I may not actually absorb the culture of the area.
it's very true. You're also, if you had came as a child, you would have, but
Right.
you're not a child, so you never will. You would be always a Canadian in America.
Yeah,
Just like if
that's
I
right.
came up there, I would always feel like an American in the Canadian in
Yeah,
Canada.
yeah,
But
that's right.
it doesn't mean I couldn't enjoy it. But I'm just making a comment
Of
that
course.
how it would feel. So I agree with you. That's what I was trying to show too, is that not only did they send their DNA, shocker, they sent their religion too,
Yeah, that's right.
because it's culture.
Genomic studies also indicate that the A&E component was introduced to Western Europe by people related to the Yamnaya culture, long after the Paleolithic. It is reported in modern-day Europeans 7 to 25%, but not of Europeans before the Bronze Age. And additional A&E ancestry is found in European populations through Paleolithic interactions with Eastern hunter-gatherers, which resulted in populations such as Scandinavian hunter-gatherers. The ancient North Eurasians split
And
from
Scandinavian hunter-gatherers, I'm sorry, real quick.
yeah.
Scandinavian hunter-gatherers, so people know what that means, like Finland, Norway, Sweden. So,
Right. Yeah.
but especially Sweden. Just saying. I mean, what it means, that term.
So, yeah, the ancient North Eurasians split from the ancestors of European peoples somewhere in the Middle East or South Central Asia and used a northern dispersal route through Central Asia into Northern Asia and Siberia. Genetic analyses show that all A&E samples, Afontova Gora 3, Malta 1, and Yana-RHS, show evidence of minor gene flow from an East Asian related group simplified by the Amis, Han, or Tianyuan. So I, just in case somebody else is as layman as myself, we've talked about Afontova Gora 3, Malta, and Yana-RHS previously in this exact video. This was all earlier that we talked about that. So that's why I'm not like curious about, like, I'm not asking what they are, because we already
Right. Well, also
covered that.
showed you the maps that shows where they are.
Right. Yeah. So it's all in there. In contrast, no evidence for A&E related gene flow into East Asians, Amis, Han, or Tianyuan, except the Ainu was found. Genetic data suggests that the A&E formed during the terminal Upper Paleolithic.
It should be 36,000, by the way.
Why?
I know. Look, I don't write these things, dude. Trust me. 36,000 to 1,500,000 years ago.
I swear to God, somebody's just making this confusing on purpose.
Well, right. Well, because you get it, though. They write in a way that, in a sense, even if a layman started to read, they would be clueless.
Well, yeah. What's 36 plus dash 1.5 Ka?
But so, right. So, what? Yeah, I'll explain it. So, it's basically what it means is 36,000 years ago, plus or minus 1,500 years.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
But why not just write that shit? Seriously.
Why not just write that shit? Yeah.
Because why should it
There's
be?
no character limit. Come on.
But I was just showing you how when people just, I mean, what I was going to say is, like, I've had people say, I can't read that stuff. It's so hard. And I'm like, well, I just wanted to give you the good feeling that it's not just you.
Right.
Some of the shit is fucked up. I mean, what the fuck? It's fuck. It makes it worse, harder, more confusing. Why are you doing that?
Why?
I don't like that, because then to some other person reads that, they go, yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, well,
they wouldn't even know it was years. They wouldn't know what the fuck they're looking at.
You just skip over it. That's the part. I just skip over that part. Forget it. Doesn't matter. Gibberish.
Yeah. All right, keep going, but that was funny.
Right. So formed during the terminal Upper Paleolithic, 36,000 plus or minus 1.5 thousand years period, from a deeply European related population which was once widespread in northern Eurasia, and from an early East Asian related group which migrated northwards into Central Asia and Siberia, merging with this deeply European related population. These population dynamics and constant northwards gene flow of East Asian related ancestry would later give rise to the ancestral Native Americans and Paleo-Siberians, which replaced the A&E as dominant population of Siberia. So, groups partially derived from the ancient North Eurasians. Eastern hunter-gatherers, EHG, is a lineage derived predominantly, 75%, from A&E. It is represented by two individuals from Karelia.
Pause for a second. Remember, this is what I was telling you.
Yeah.
When they said that those other people had two lineages, they have A&E, and then they have Eastern hunter-gatherers, which are 75% A&E.
Right, yeah, which is A&E, yeah. One of the Y haplogroup R1A M417 dated circa 8,400
years ago.
Yep. The other of Y haplogroup J dated 7,200 years ago. Yep. And one individual from Samara of Y haplogroup R1B P279 dated 7,600 years ago. This lineage is closely related to the A&E sample from Afontova Gora, dated 18,000 years ago. After the end of the last glacial maximum, the Western hunter-gatherers, WHG and EHG lineages merged in Eastern Europe, accounting for early presence of A&E-derived ancestry in Mesolithic Europe. Evidence suggests that as ancient North Eurasians migrated west from eastern Siberia, they absorbed Western hunter-gatherers and other Western Eurasian populations as well. Caucasian hunter-gatherers, or CHG, is represented by the Satserblia individual dated 13,000 years ago from the Satserblia cave in Georgia, and carried 36% A&E derived admixture. While the rest, admixture sounds like one of those internet terms that means you got ads on your site.
They mean they're A&E derived genetics. In other words, ancestry.
Okay.
They're 36% of their ancestry is from the ancient North Eurasians.
So, okay.
That's what that means.
That makes sense.
Right.
While the rest of their ancestry is derived from the Zuana cave individual dated 26,000 years ago, which lacked A&E admixture. Zuana affinity in the Caucasus decreased with the arrival of A&E 13,000 years ago at Satsurblia. Scandinavian hunter-gatherers, or
And by the way,
SHG.
everyone who's mentioned right here, you're reading, all of these have related DNA to ancient North Eurasians. That's what it's
Right.
explaining. That
Right.
all these people, so it's got a lot of people, which that map shows, but this explains like who they are.
Right. Yeah, because it's just it's a bunch of different groups, right?
Right.
So, yeah. So the Scandinavian hunter-gatherers is represented by several individuals buried at Motala, Sweden, circa 5,000 BC or 6,000 BC.
Which is actually to today, it would be in a sense 8,000 and 20. What is this? 3, 4,
3,
23.
almost 4.
3 years ago. So you would add
The 2000 and
2000 and whatever time it is now to the number.
Okay. So, yeah, 8,000 years ago. They were descended from Western hunter-gatherers who initially settled Scandinavia from the south and later populations of EHG who entered Scandinavia from the north.
Oh, by the way, going back to that thing. Remember when it says BC and I told you it just means years ago? All they do, in a sense, a lot of times, is they just take this number and they add 2,000. So
Right.
6,000 becomes 8,000. They'll just say 8,000 BC or BP. Yeah, BC.
Yeah, BP.
No,
this is BC.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, BP. Yeah, before present. Right. So they'll just add 2,000. So they won't. They do it in a sense, which I guess is better. In a simplified, they just knock off the 20 whatever, and they just do the 2,000.
Yeah.
So that I'm just saying, a lot of times when you're reading it, it says BP. It's generally just like adding 2,000 of this. There's like simplifying it, because once again, a lot of times like when it said plus or minus, that's very common. It's not always stated, but if you really get like the actual data,
right? Yeah, it's always going to have an error bar, right?
it's like a range. So it's a lot of times these like really distinct numbers are not so distinct, but
it's like like every survey or whatever, they've always got like this many people or this percentage of people believe in this, right, or will vote for so and so within this range of error, plus or minus.
Exactly. I'm just saying, so that's why you cutting it off it's not like insane, because the whole number is kind of a guess. It's not. It's close. That's what I'm saying. It's like an educated guess. It's close.
Right.
But is it like you could find the exact dot? Probably not.
Be pretty tough. We're on to the Iran Neolithic, right, or Iran_N. Individuals dated 8.5 thousand years ago carried 50% A&E derived admixture and 50% Zuana related admixture, marking them as different from other Near Eastern and Anatolian Neolithics who didn't have A&E admixture. Iran Neolithics were later replaced by Iran Chalcolithics, who were a mixture of Iran Neolithic and Near Eastern Levant Neolithic. Ancient Beringian ancestral Native American are specific archaeogenetic lineages based on the genome of an infant found at the Upward Sun River site, dubbed USR1, dated to about 11,500 years ago. The AB lineage diverged from the ancestral Native American ANA lineage around 20,000 years ago. Western Siberian hunter-gatherers are a specific archaeogenetic lineage first reported in a genetic study published in Science in September 2019. Western Siberian hunter-gatherers were found to be about 30% Eastern hunter-gatherers ancestry, 50% ANE ancestry, and 20% to 38% East Asian ancestry. Western steppe herders, or WSH, is the name given to a distinct ancestral component that represents descent closely related to the Yamnaya culture of the Pontiac-Caspian steppe. This ancestry is often referred to as Yamnaya ancestry or steppe ancestry.
And just so you know, the Yamnaya ancestry relates to the German peoples and the French and the English and all that.
Okay.
Spanish and Italian and yeah, all of it.
Okay, interesting. So lots of different European type of
languages. Yeah, they in other words, they spoke this similar language, and a lot of their DNA went all over there also, because they're R1B. So a lot of their DNA. But I'm saying is just to grasp, like, so these people are these people, and then these people are ancestors to these ancient North Eurasians that we're talking about. Just to show how important it is in a sense.
Right.
So if your European genetics, like mine, are going to be related to this. So they are actually our ancestors.
Right.
Or one of them, I should say. At least. So in other words, we're learning about our own history, really.
For sure.
Cool.
That's cool.
I mean, it's, as you see, but this is what I was trying to say too. It's just not limited to us. It's actually a whole bunch of people. So don't feel special.
Right.
You know,
right. No.
Germans or whatever, or Nazis. No, it's just it's the opposite of that. We're actually all connected.
So many people.
Yes, this whole list that we're reading, every one of these are connected to them.
Yeah.
Why would you hate? All of us are related. We're all family. Anyways, I'm just trying to show once again, my, like you said, humanist mentality is that, dude, we're all related. If you really understand science, you really understand the truth of how people move around, dude, we're really related. His hate and shit is ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Even if you don't want to go all the way back to Africa for our relation, there's another way that we're all related.
Right? You getting it right. Exactly. Yeah. This and the Slavs and the Russians and all that, in a sense, really, this stuff, similar stuff. So it's trying to help you understand how important this stuff is.
For sure. Late Upper Paleolithic Lake Baikal.
But I don't know. I always say
Uskiakta 3, or UKY, 14,050 to 13,770 years ago. We're a mixture of 30% ANE ancestry and 70%.
I'm helping you read this kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't have been just confused. What was BP? I would have before something, I'm sure, but
yeah.
And they were 30% ANE and 70% East Asian ancestry. Lake Baikal Holocene, Baikal Neolithic, Baikal ENE, and Baikal Early Bronze Age derived 6.4% to 20.1% ancestry from ANE, while the rest of their ancestry was derived from East Asians. Fofo Novo, near Lake Baikal, were a mixture of 12 to 17% ANE ancestry and 83 to 87% East Asian ancestry.
So at that time, that's just helping us understand there was a change, because at the time, remember, those people at Lake Baikal were like the origin of this. Right, so the origin of these people of all that's what that map I showed you does. So the origin of all these people, and then by the Holocene, which I think is like under 10,000, but it could be under that. But that area gets pushed out by East Asian ancestry. So people, like I said, from China. That's why we're reading about this too. Trying to show you what China does. So China did go up there, but it went up there like 10,000 years ago. And one of the DNAs it went up there with, so that people can understand that they can go look it up, is in DNA. And also we're going to have maps that show it go from North China 9,000 years ago into Lake Balka. And then this is explaining at that time that in DNA basically took over the other stuff. So that
Okay.
their DNA became, which is probably in, maybe it's something else also, but certainly in, but took it over to 87%. So almost completely.
Wow.
So then people understand. So people that are there now, right? Say ancestry, that population is East Asian from China, and came there 10,000 years ago, in a sense, 9,000 years ago. Which we do have
Okay.
a map later that'll explain that, but maybe not in this show, but another show
Right.
will show this, because that we're talking before. So, but it shows it do that. So I'm just saying is that DNA is also explaining that. That's all I was trying to
Okay.
just tie it in, that DNA is saying that, East Asian, but they're, came from the what is now China. How about that? From North China,
Right.
over almost near Korea, not that far, but pretty. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Close-ish.
Not South China is what I'm talking about. North China,
Right.
way
Right.
up there.
Okay. So then we also have Hokkaido Jomon people, specifically refers to the Jomon period population of Hokkaido in northernmost Japan. Though the Jomon people themselves descended mainly from East Asian lineages, one study found an affinity between Hokkaido Jomon and the North Eurasian Yana sample, an ANE related group related to Malta, and suggest as an explanation the possibility of minor Yana gene flow into the Hokkaido Jomon population, as well as other possibilities. A more recent study by Cook et al. 2021 confirmed ANE-related gene flow among the Jomon people, partially ancestral to the Ainu people. ANE ancestry among Jomon people is estimated at
Oh, wait, hold on 1
21%.
second. Do you know what L means? I do. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the words are.
Et
But I
al.
know
Isn't that just like Cook and Company? Like his crew has studied with him?
well, in a sense, yes. But so what it means is there's a whole bunch of names after that.
Right.
Tons of names. Way too many to list. You would be reading like 27 names or something or whatever.
Right.
I don't know what the has the limit to how low it has to be, but
Yeah.
it
The et al. Is everyone else who did the study.
there you go.
Yeah.
It just means that when they say that, they're not saying that Cook did the study by himself or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
Or herself or whatever.
Yeah. ANE ancestry among Jomon people is estimated at 21%. However, there is a north to south cline with the Japanese archipelago with the highest amount of ANE ancestry in Hokkaido and Tohoku. And then we're on to the formation. We have a picture of formation of ancient North Siberians, ANS.
Right. Just trying to so people can grasp, even though also about moving around. Like, so even people can grasp that some people as DNA, like now where they're at, it's not exactly that you were always there. DNA, as you see in these arrows, more than one mixes together, right? So it's like 3 mixed together to make that population.
Right.
And then it also is going to bring in cultural ideas, or mythologies or whatever from different areas. So I'm just saying how things mix and whatever.
Yep, for sure. And those will mix and yeah.
Well, yeah, and change. And yeah. And then if you look at the next one, then what do? Then they all spread all over the place.
Yeah, then you've got your ancient North Eurasian network, and that's
right.
Yeah.
But you see what I'm saying about like things are influencing other things. Cultures are not like don't happen just only out of the midair. Like every culture is its own island or something. Hell,
right. Yeah, no, absolutely not.
Right. And then you go like, why does everybody in such far distances all share the same thing? You're like, Well, let me tell you a story about how when people move, they take their ideas with them.
Yeah, that's right. And then we've got a picture of what looks like
Okay, it's a long
DNA.
thing that's showing how we ended up with all these different things, including, as you see, it says first is chimpanzee, and then it branches off to us, and that includes Neanderthals and Desovians. It explains that. Then it says UST, and I think that has to do with that Eunuchs man at 45,000 years
Oh,
ago
okay.
in Siberia, and then where it says singular.
Yep.
Okay, this is actually the first graviton burial before,
Okay.
but right before they buried the next one, which is younger. This is at 35,000 or something to 30,000. Then a
Okay.
little bit younger in Czechoslovakia, these same people, but younger, go and bury the first shaman, just to show what they're pointing to. And then you see the arrows, and then it says here the Yana is that one rhinoceros burial,
Oh, yeah.
burial that relates to the Native Americans and also to the Siberians.
Right.
And so then MA1, that's the ANE ancestry of Maltaboy. They're just showing like
Right.
where it comes from, so you can
Okay.
see their connections to things. Then there's the one called Devil's Cave, and their DNA even goes to the Americas and stuff, but it's showing how.
Okay.
So in other words, the person in the cave, see where it says, doesn't mean the person in the cave's family went to, but they had similar genetics to the ones that went into the Native Americans. Because all the
Right.
ones in red down here are Native Americans.
Okay. So that's the Clovis, Alaska, and
See?
Colima.
See?
Okay.
So it's trying to get you to understand how people, just like, do you see we're going back to the ancient North Eurasians? Did Maltaboy's family himself go to the Americas?
No.
Oh, further back before him, right, or whatever, the lineage split. So when, like Graham Hancock says, the one that came out of this Maltaboy and went to Eurasia that had the blonde hair somehow relates to Native Americans, I'm like, no way. No. It's not. You see what I'm saying? Once you understand that Maltaboy did not mate with any of them. It's ancestry related to them in a sense.
Yeah.
To the Maltaboy, not his direct family.
He's got it. Hancock has it all kinds of backwards. He's drawing conclusions.
Because it's like if you read the thing and it says that Maltaboy's ancestry relates to the Native Americans, and they just see, there we go, direct connection. No, it's not a direct connection. It's not a direct connection. It's saying that like an older ancestor relates to both of us, but we never touched.
Right. Yeah. But my kids didn't go.
Right. See what I'm saying? So, right. Right.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's what that map I think helps grasp.
For sure.
Then the next map is explaining like out of Africa, and see it shows we all start in Africa. For all the bigots, I'm sorry, this is the
too fucking bad.
The truth of science.
Yeah.
We all come from Africa, and whatever kind of out of Asia you think is wrong, and this explains the whole thing for you.
Yeah.
And the people that think that they're white somehow don't come from Africa, wrong. And this explains that too. Like where it says basal Eurasian, still came from Africa.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's neat.
And then shows the ancient North Eurasians, right? And then it says RB1. It's showing how these cultures, and then like the Nufians, that has to do with the 12,000-year-old burial, right? It's showing that the ancient North Eurasian people, their DNA goes down to Israel. That's what the Natufian.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. And then where it says Levant Neolithic, that Levant is everywhere from, say, Turkey down to, Africa almost, wherever. That whole region. what I mean? You know what I'm saying? That's the Levant. It's a whole bunch of. It's like
Right, right.
a whole bunch of countries. It's not just one. But just think, Palestine or Israel or whatever. That area is the center of it. But all the other countries that touch it are pretty much up there
They're
too.
all okay.
Part of the Levant. So, but then this is also showing how R1B and R1A went different ways. Do you see that?
Yep.
See, R1A becomes Eastern hunter gatherers, right? But the
Right.
R1B goes over to Italy, which is that Viburnum. But then from there, it goes to the Western hunter gatherers, which does with like
Right.
all the way to Spain to Germany or wherever. These people and farther than that, but these people then become these different cultures, like see Italy and whatever. But you see that the religion, to me, that starts in the ancient North Eurasians takes two different lines. So both
Right.
So people in like the early Israel, they get the stuff from the ancient North Eurasians because the DNA goes into them. So does the
For
whole
sure.
Levant. So does the Antonola or whatever. That is Turkey. And but didn't Turkey get it from there too? So Turkey's religion, when I say that the Göbekli Tepe, in a sense, it has relations to this ancestry. So thus, the least I would say is I think that it's giving the mythology thinking to these different people.
Right.
But you see, it also goes to the Eastern hunter-gatherers, which has to do with basically Eastern Europe and like Siberia.
Yeah.
And then you have Western hunter-gatherers, which is all Western Europe. Right, but if you notice, they're all connected to this one culture.
Yeah, that's right.
And so all of them have the similar religious ideas. Is not shocking. Just trying to help people understand, like it's confusing, like the map is showing you, which I sometimes make too simple of just so people can grasp the big picture. But it is quite complicated, but you can follow the evidence and come to a reasonable conclusion.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the note underneath it says ancient North Eurasians within a tentative sketch modeling the genetic history of Europe and West Eurasia from ancient populations up to the Neolithic. So that's neat.
Well, thank you.
I like that. And then I don't know what is this 18,000 to 7,000 Xianren cave culture, Paleolithic.
Yes. Now we're going to talk about pottery.
Oh, cool.
Because everywhere in the world that has pottery is because of this, what you're reading.
Okay. So we've got some pictures. There's a pot on one side. It says 20,000 to 10,000 year old pottery found in the cave with reconstruction. And then on the other side, it's got Xianren Dong cave pottery fragment, radiocarbon dated to 20,000 years before present.
Right. That C means circa. And I
Yeah.
guess that means like in
20,000
this
years
time
ago.
frame or something. Yeah. Before present, which also means just years ago.
And then
Right.
we've
So
got
I'm trying to show you that the backup, this is from Wikipedia. I'm backing up that what I'm talking about. This is well known. So, but I'm just saying people don't grasp this. This is nDNA also went with this. And then nDNA, everywhere they went, so did pottery follow.
Okay.
And that's how, when 10,000 years ago, nDNA for sure goes up to Siberia, which actually that is the second time, because its first time is probably 16,000, brought pottery. And then again at 9,000, 10,000, which we already talked about before, that DNA, which those people actually understand. Like I said about they relate to the people religion in Japan. Those people stay there for a while, right? They populate the whole area themselves. But then 5,000 years ago, they split off, formed the Uralic languages, and end up becoming the Sami in the Finland and all these other Siberian cultures.
Okay. So I guess, and then we also have a picture of a Xianren cave.
Correct. And by the way, those, of course, those wood things you see would not have been there.
Right.
It's modern day stuff. So, and then that shows which region of
Right.
China it's
Where
located.
Okay. So it says Chinese pottery dates to about 20,000 years BCE.
So in other words, 22,000 years ago.
Right. China holds the earliest pottery yet known anywhere in the world. Was found at this site, dating by radiocarbon to between 20,000 and 19,000 years ago. The carbon-14 datation was established by careful dating of surrounding sediments. Many of the pottery fragments had scorch marks, suggesting that the pottery was used for cooking. These early pottery containers were made well before the invention of agriculture, which is dated to 10,000 to 8,000 BC.
And by the way, so people understand, these pots probably were like stewing meat or something. And just think, when you stew meat, doesn't it make meat that's unedible almost edible? Right?
Yep.
You can. So you understand is, before that, they just like barbecue stuff, and a tough piece of meat actually gets tougher.
Right.
not better, but anyways, but maybe slow cook it somehow underground or something. But my point is, what these pots are doing is two things. First off, I think these people, which I already said, come the southern route, right? So they don't have shamanism. They have animism only out of Africa. The one split off, and then when it went to the north, it made shamanism. Remember I said to me.
Right.
The other one is just animism. It could have, once again, I don't think that it means that all animism can't evolve. I think everything evolves. This is what I'm told.
Right.
Whole point of telling you. So yes, by the time it gets to China, and it starts 20,000 years ago, these animists could be evolved animists. But there's still, to me, that I'm saying is, I don't see anyone until they go north. This is just animist. But I was going to go back to the thing. So, and I think what these things are communal cooking stuff, right? And then I think they probably relate to ceremonies, maybe with the dead, or whatever, or crop seasons or whatever, and you pray to the ancestors, and then you do the food in this thing, and it makes the food soft or whatever, makes it more edible. So this ancestors, you believe the magic happened, because this normally when you cook stuff doesn't do that. So to me, I'm just making a comment, like this is my speculations. I'm trying to reasonably think about what they're doing and why. So I think that if I can understand their culture, then you understand what they could be doing. So I think that what they're doing in a sense has to do with the ancestors already. So, which I think animism, that's not unheard of. But so I think that they were using these pots communally, like I said, so like a ritual. So everybody gets together, and then you do something, and then we eat the food. So I'm just saying these are not just random pots. My point is,
it's there's a significance to them.
There's significance. Yes, that's right, exactly. Plus, just think, pottery in a sense is a magical process. You take pottery, you take clay, and you bake it, and you end up with a usable thing. I mean, it's almost magic as it is. I'm just making a comment that if you have a magical worldview, I'm just saying that these are, in other words, what I'm saying is, it's not like if you said, "Oh, I found a spoon at Corey's house," you wouldn't immediately think, "Well, this is a religious thing," But I'm saying when you find stuff back then, there's not a difference. Culture and religion is these same things.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And then I guess, excuse me. Farther down, we have our next thing is a picture, the world's earliest pottery.
The stuff in purple is my ideas. So these maps you see are archaeology stuff on these two first ones. The second one I didn't. I just wrote the stuff in purple, but that's just the information that goes to them. I just made it easier. But this first map where I show the arrows or whatever, this is what happened, like close to it. Like the
Right.
stuff that starts in South China, right, which I already talked about.
Yep.
And this is my thoughts, but I understand what the ones that the pottery they're showing is when the pots show up. I'm showing the arrows to kind of explain why and why they're different. Like why Japan's north pottery is not the same as its south pottery.
Okay.
Do you see that? I'm trying to explain why.
Right.
Stuff the one is from a southern thing, and then the other people go north, and then they go over. Do you see that?
Yeah.
So, and then these ones with the dotted, it's me saying, well, they may have taken this different route.
Okay.
I don't know which route exactly they took. See what I'm saying? So I'm trying to explain what I understand of what the
Right.
picture is showing. Then on the other, then that's the one side of China, right? Then
Okay.
the other side, see where it says numbered. China's number 1, then it goes to Siberia, number 2, number
Yep.
3. It goes from there and it goes into both, to me, Turkey and into say Russia, near Scandinavia, and then you see it going into to Finland, right? The one top arrow, the bottom one, that's going to Denmark. So he's explaining like how it all moved. Then from Turkey, it goes into the Balkans, which is called the Danube pottery, and then it shows how the Danube pottery moves around. Also from Turkey, which you don't see on here, that little arrow on the bottom, it's going into France. That's a different kind of pottery, but they came from Turkey also. But they went by way of, I think they hit Cyprus, or they may have hit Greece, and then they hit Italy, and then they came up that way.
Okay.
Anyways, I'm just explaining so you understand how the pottery moved.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm showing you a map for my ideas of what DNA was moving with this pottery. You see the next one?
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
And so it's in DNA, and I'm just explaining it. It starts off right where pottery does, and then it goes up. So even though one branch goes to southern Japan, this in DNA doesn't. See what I'm saying? That's actually, I think, D DNA that did that, or O that went over there. But in DNA, which O and N were connected and then split off, so that's also help you understand that they were before they considered O N, and then O and N split and did different things. But they already had, to me, pottery, so they both, where they went, pottery went.
Okay.
But they didn't. O and D doesn't go as far as N does. Look how far N does. N goes all the way to Finland.
Right.
And goes to Poland or Estonia or whatever that is.
Way over to the west side of Europe.
Right.
Eh?
You see it? And then it also drops down to Kazakhstan. See, and from there, it goes to Iran. And then from there, it goes to Turkey. Or it could have dropped from the top down from Russia, and then Georgia into eastern Turkey, and then went to central Turkey. Something like that. Because in DNA shows up like at the pre-Neolithic almost. But at the oldest place they have pottery in Turkey is like, I think, I can't remember, it's 10,500 or something. But that's the same date for when the oldest DNA of N is in Turkey, is right at the same place.
Interesting.
So when you see this map and you go, well, that's not a shocker to me, since I can see N going all the way to the same places that pottery went.
Right.
Because then when pottery goes all the way to Germany from Turkey, guess what? It has N1A. You know the DNA that goes, I showed you from the bottom, and I said goes through Greece and or whatever, and over to Italy, and then over to France and stuff. That DNA is also N, but it's N star, which means like the original, and also I think N1A. So they have
Okay.
like two different N DNAs. But it's just to show you that I know like who did what, when, where, and you
Right.
when you start putting like the culture next to the DNA stuff, then you go like, oh, that's why it shows up here and then goes all the way.
Yeah, when the DNA and the culture and the, like you say, the pottery or what have you, it all seems to line up
Right.
in this place. So then you go, okay, well, these are the
So
people
this is
that
what they've
brought
got
this.
so far. So I feel China, like I already said, this is my speculation, and this is my evidence to why it's speculation. My thing is that China relates to pretty much all the pottery. I think
Okay.
even that relates to the pottery in the New World, because people were coming in. The DNA is not closed off from the New World. But I'm just saying. So to me, pottery, but certainly it's in the already over to Europe for sure. Across the steppe and stuff, it's freaking obvious as hell. And to me, it also goes, like I said, to me, goes into Turkey and then Iran, and makes the first potteries over in Iraq and Iran. All that's really, to me, related still to them. And then
Right.
all the stuff that goes to Greece and goes to Italy, and it's all related to N. And then the stuff that goes all the way to Germany and all the pottery of the, it's all related to N1A. I mean, it's literally. You can look at it, and everywhere that it goes, freaking pottery is there.
Right.
So, and then the next one, if you go down, the next one shows you the red is my idea to explain what you're looking at.
Okay.
And the 20,000 is China. So it
Right,
starts in
yeah.
China, goes Siberia, Lake Balka is that place in the, and then everything goes over to Europe.
So in a sense, this is a similar idea. Like the map is similar to the one above, but now we have all these pottery around it showing what it looked like, kind of thing.
Right, because I'm trying to back it up that this is an article, and I'm showing you, look at what it's doing.
Right.
And then you see below it, it shows a map, and it shows like what time that stuff starts. And you can see it starts, like I said, the darkest is in China.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is to put also to understand, before we get to the Neolithic, which is our main goal, is to start talking about what other people call states and cultures and everything. But is to show that this was already very advanced. So this is not advanced people, very advanced a long fucking time ago.
Yeah.
So China's been advanced to me. So when they say the cradle of like technology, if you consider pottery a technology, I certainly do, and a very impactful one. That
yes, absolutely.
That China is the birthplace of that shit. It's like awesome, and we should all know about it.
Have maybe I'm misremembering, but didn't we discuss like in the past how like a lot of pottery, like the way that they like cultures would draw and or paint on their pottery represented their religion or their culture?
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah. Speaking of that, the pottery that's all the way, they call it comb culture. Going back to, let me explain this to you. So the comb culture, which I don't have I think maybe later I did, but I don't know if I added it, but I guess I could have, because the comb culture starts in China. They can show where it is, like almost where it starts, and then it goes all the way to Finland.
Okay.
And that's the culture where it had the Ukrainic language that then split and became Sami. So and they're the culture that did the rock art. But I'm just saying that's NDNA coming from China.
Interesting.
So I'm saying that when you understand that it's different ways of explaining the complicated thing, but this also explains that. And then also when they did this, they spread their ideas. And then the next one down here, And some of the archaeologists were like, not sure about this, but to me, look at this. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm not. It's still my speculation, like I said, because I wasn't there. But I think it is absolutely reasonable. The evidence is high.
Right. Yeah. Seems pretty. It's not unreasonable for sure. Like it's like the way it seems to have moved along with everything. Like,
Right.
from my perspective, as a lay person, it definitely seems like reasonable speculation.
Right. Yeah, right. Exactly. Not a Graham Hancock, and everyone that looks at it goes, "Oh, come on."
Right.
But anyway, so then the next one's another picture.
Yes. And although it has words above it here, eh?
Yeah.
So it says, although isolated cases of innovation cannot be excluded, a continuous process of adoption with the earlier occurrence of an antecedent tradition in Western Siberia or Central Asia, Siberia fit better though both are consistent with an ultimate origin for these traditions in the Far East.
Far East, in other words, just said China.
Right. Right.
So, which is this article right here, basically, in a very complicated way, is basically saying, so everything starts in China, then it goes to Siberia, then from Western Siberia, that's where all the stuff went to Europe, or at least the stuff in the north, I should say. The stuff in the south went from Siberia to Central Asia, probably Kazakhstan or something, or to Russia, that over near Georgia, and shot down into Turkey, and then also went to Iran. So that's why I still think they probably went that way, or they could have gone two different ways.
Okay.
But anyway, so that's how to me that it relates to their pottery.
Okay.
But this is in other words, some archaeologists, coming to the similar conclusion.
Right. Right. And that is the end of our notes for today's show.
Right. It was great.
Right on.
And we all hardly talked about anything.
Yeah. We covered
like,
zero ground. We have nothing was done here today.
Yeah. I think it was some good stuff, and I think it should, I hope, help people grasp what's important when we talk about the Neolithic that leads to state formation later. So I mean, this is the big chunk before it, to me, before the Neolithic. And then Neolithic is when slavery comes in. Neolithic is when hierarchy comes in, but it's not state yet. But I already talked about this. So, but this is so the state right before that I'm showing is already advanced, right? They already have culture.
That's right. Yeah, they clearly had something going on. They weren't just like uncivilized, whatever derogation you might want to use for them.
Right, but I've been saying, so I'm trying to show is before any of the Neolithic stuff happened, which did a bunch of that's where like hierarchy and stuff starts, but they already had a lot of culture. So in other words, like this like fake belief that innovation only happens under capitalism or kind of dumb shit.
Right.
You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, for sure.
In a sense, an anarchist society, right? You get what I'm saying? Non-Neolithic, so there's no hierarchy. So a non-hierarchical society actually could produce, innovation, right? Yeah, that's the one that did. Everyone else is stealing that idea.
Yeah.
That's all I was trying to say is that that's why. How can you possibly think that hierarchy is required to have innovation? I mean, that's all I was trying to say is that look at this. This is the whole world ended up, using pottery, and it came from a culture that didn't have hierarchy. And so it's good to remember that hierarchy is actually not needed for advanced culture.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And one might even make the argument that hierarchy stops us from being an advanced culture.
Yeah, I agree. Because I think that civilized requires us to care, and not caring and letting people, starve or, be poverty. It's just, that's on you.
Yeah.
But anyway, so any closing thoughts on the stuff that you learned today?
Let me think. Closing thoughts. I don't think so. There was a lot of information to take in.
Okay.
I think, I mean, I guess in a sense, it's pretty clear that like you say, like everybody's connected. We've said it many times throughout this entire video, like everybody's connected.
Right. And what you look at the evidence, that's not what I'm trying to show is that is the reality position. That
Right.
is not
Right.
like woke
It's not
ideology.
woke.
Yeah. Right. You know what I'm saying?
We're not just being FJWs or whatever they call us.
Unless you mean woke as in scientifically backed up. Okay.
Yeah. That is what they mean, right?
Right. It probably is what they mean. We don't want none of that shit.
We don't want any facts getting in the way.
Well, because a lot of people feel like, I could have a humanist bent or an anarchist bent. Reality has a humanist and an anarchist bent.
Yeah.
In the sense of how culture works, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So and I, that's what I'm trying to give you stuff to understand. But then we're going to do the Neolithic, which gets even more interesting. More stuff's happening, and then we're going to explain it all. But I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate you go and if you want to check out stuff, there certainly is. But that this just backs up, like you said, my thinking in general. But I'm just giving you the facts of why that thinking is very sound.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
right on.
Go ahead and tell us about what you're doing.
Oh boy, I got lots of back episodes I'm working on, trying to get everything out, and I'm working on some new scripts for video essays that may or may not ever get into production mode. But I've also got some really killer interviews lined up for the Skeptical Leftist YouTube channel and podcast. So check that out on all the places. Skepticalleftist.com is my website in case anybody wants to go there and sign up for the newsletter so you never miss an episode or even any random thing that I write down.
Right on. Well, everyone, take care.